tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
The breeze is in on Poeto Beach. It's been a nervous wait, but finally we have the wind. We need to get going. Hi, my name's Andy Rice, and with Jimmy Craythorne, we're going to bring you all the action today. Jimmy, pretty exciting. It's been a nervous wait this morning, though.
Absolutely. We had some offshore wind, and then that died, and now the new breeze has come in, and it's looking exciting. It's 13 to 15 knots. It's the most wind we've had all week, so it's going to be good.
So we've had the opening series so far. Today is all about the top 10 men, the top 10 women, and we've got some that are in the game for the first time as well. So exciting to see how the newcomers in the top 10 perform today, Jimmy.
Exactly, yeah, we've got 13-year-old Carolina as well, so that will be, yeah, the youngest girl ever to be in a medal series. Very exciting to watch.
Excellent. Well, let's go to a recap and see the story so far.
So that's a wrap for day 3 and our opening series. Unfortunately, the wind was tricky today and we only completed 2 of the scheduled 4 races. Andy, how did it go in the women?
In the women, Lauriane Nalot, she was in a close photo finish in the first race, just missed out, finished 3rd in that race, and she didn't win the next race either, but she is still in the yellow bib, absolutely critical for the medal series, and in blue is Brianna Whitehead. And then in the men, well, it's Max Mader who won both races today, so he extended his lead. He cements his position in the yellow bib even more than before, and Lorenzo Boschetti, the local Italian favourite, in second. So those 4 riders definitely in our finals in the medal series. As to the rest, well, we'll wait and see.
So now it's on to the final day and our medal series. We can't wait for the action.
So that's the story so far. Now, for the second event running, we are trialling the new medal series format. So if you've followed along previous KiteFoil World Series and Formula Kite events, you'll be familiar with our finals format with a 4-rider final. But how we've got the yellow and the blue bibs that go through, our first and second qualifiers in the men and women from the opening series. But as to the rest of the top 10, how they go through is different. So here's a little update on how we've set up the new format.
In KiteFoil racing, we've got a format, the medal series, that means that anyone at the top 10 can still win the competition on the final day. Here's how it works.
To win the championship, you need to get 3 wins in the 4-board final. First place from the opening series flies straight through to the final with 2 wins, meaning they only need to win 1 more race. Second from the opening series goes through with just 1 win, so they'll need to win 2 more in the final. But what about the other 2? How do they get to the final? 8 riders, positions 3 to 10 in the opening series, can still win the championship if they can break through a series of 1-race knockout rounds.
Through each round, 2 are knocked out of the competition and 2 progress to the next level. The top 2 riders to emerge from this knockout process join our other 2 contenders in the 4-rider final. Except that the knockout qualifiers start with no race wins. But if one of them can take 3 wins, then they will become the overall champion.
So we can't wait to find out how things go. We're going to be kicking off in a moment with the women's repechage. That's 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th from the opening series so far. Let's take a look at the top 10 women. We had them up on stage earlier today here on Poeto Beach. So let's take a look at our runners and riders, the top 10 women. On it, why don't we look at the top 10 men as well, because we probably won't have time to preview. It's going to be short and sharp. There's going to be lots of action later on. And doing everything in their power to make sure that Max doesn't win a race today. So some pretty significant changes to the format, Jimmy. So far, so good, I think. And I know that you, as a recently retired professional rider, you're quite excited about this format. You like it, don't you?
I do like it. Yeah, I think it's really nice kind of giving people in 10th, well, it's the same as the other format in the way you can kind of climb up the rankings. But this is really lovely it's much easier to follow, and it's going to be exciting, I think. It's cool that it's the top 2 from each round that get to progress and get a chance to eventually go up into that finals and battle with the top 2.
Yeah, just got to be in the top half of the finish line. Easier said than done, of course. But we've got just over 1 minute to the start of the women's repechage. And just to remind you, in this group, we have got Karolina Jankowska from Poland, Marina Vodicek from Slovenia, Italy's Tiana Laporte, and I would argue, Jimmy, the favourite to come out of this group, Julia Damasovic from Poland. A bit of a surprise to see Julia hasn't has not managed to make her way into one of the higher groups. But how do you think it's looking? It looks like we've got 3 lining up for starboard and possibly one coming in from port.
Exactly. So it looks like we've got Marina going for that port start, and then you can see the red gin kite of Tiana, and the other 2 kites is Julia and Carolina. So to our 2 Polish riders.
Okay, and so I'm really excited to see how Vodicek on the far side is going to come out of this port tack start. I'm a big fan of these port tack starts, particularly in these 4-rider kind of races, because it's one less tack you've got to do if you judge your ley line correctly up towards the top mark. 2 seconds. I think, well, they're off. Let's find out if it's a clear start. Yes, it is. So Vodicek is going to be passing behind the other 3, but remember, she's potentially got one less tack to do. So a good start by all 3 riders. It looks to me like of the other 3 that Tiana Laporte has possibly got the better start. But actually, as I say that, what do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, she's in a nice controlling position there, but Julia's speed is looking good, and we'll see if she can break free. She's got some good height, good upwind mode there. Doesn't
she? So Julia Damasovic already making life hard for the Italian with the red kite, and Damasovic going for a very close tack. I was amazed. I mean, could there be a protest out of that? I don't know.
That's very interesting. I wonder if there is. That was incredibly close.
So Damasovic, I don't know why. I mean, maybe they're already up on the ley line. These are very short courses, but did Damasovic really need to cut it that fine? Just another 10 seconds of sailing on starboard, and I think she would have crossed Laporte a lot more easily than she did. Anyway, we will see. It's all instant umpiring. There's no protests on the final day. So what happens on the water is what decides the results. So on the right-hand side, it's the 13-year-old Karolina Jankowska, who is dropping behind the other 2. Tiana Laporte dropping down below Julia Damasovic. And meanwhile, on the far side, Marina Vodicek, who started on port. How's that going to work out for Vodicek? It doesn't look like she's going to be able... Oh, I don't know. It's close. What do you think, Jimmy?
It's really close. I think she might have it here.
Here's the moment of truth.
Julia just flinging in the tack there. And we'll see if her ley line's good into that windward mark. Really close, our top 3. And impressive from Karolina. She's not far behind.
No, she's not. And Karolina Jankowska at the back, 13 years old. But round first by a whisker, it's Julia Damasovic ahead of the port tack starting Marina Vodicek. And rounding third with a red kite, it is Tiana Laporte. And just rounding now, Karolina Jankowska from Poland. And this is the strongest wind that we've seen. Do you know what size kites they're on, Jimmy?
So, yeah, you can see the white caps from this great shot here, and they're all on 15 metres at the moment, which I think is the good kite size to go for, especially in the women's fleet. I think it will be a bit more interesting to see what the men go for, but it's nice to see them all kind of evenly matched with their kite size choice.
Well, of course, the men are going to be watching very carefully to see how the women are going with the 15 square metre. I mean, it looks pretty breezy to me. Look at those speeds, touching just over 30 knots downwind. Damasovic going into a jibe. Vodicek in second and Laporte still in third with the red kite. And Damasovic rounds the bottom of the course successfully and is beginning to extend away from Vodicek and Laporte, just rounding now. And remember, as long as you're in the top 2, you get to progress through to the next stage, which is the quarterfinal. So at the moment, it would be Damasovic and Vodicek, and Tiana Laporte just tacking with the red kite. Well, she needs to create some separation and see if she can find something better on the right-hand side. So Vodicek surely will tack fairly soon, which he does. Damasovic has already tacked, so Damasovic at the bottom of our screen. To the right is Vodicek, our first and second riders, and Tiana Laporte with the red kite, chancing her arm out on the far side of the course, because Laporte needs to get past at least one of those front 2 to book her spot in the next round.
Exactly. It's all about these top 2. It's the 2 that can progress to the next round. And so even if you're not battling for that first position, you want to be battling for that second position. And we'll see how it goes for Tiana going out right there.
And this is much more of a speed race when you're on an open race course rather than 45, 50 odd riders on one course where you're struggling for clear air. Pure speed is going to pay a lot more, isn't it, Jimmy?
Absolutely, especially when you've got less people to be in the dirty air of their kites. You've got a lot more space, and speed really matters here.
So Julia Damasovic successfully tacked onto the lay line quite comfortably ahead of the next two, but look at what's going on behind. We've got a double tack between the next two. They haven't quite judged their lay line correctly, and it looks like Tiana Laporte's gamble over to the far side of the course has paid off, because Laporte has now overtaken Vodicek, but it's oh so close for that second spot in the quarter-final. So Laporte, will this be enough to propel the Italian into the next round? It's going to be the crowds on Poeto Beach will be cheering the red kite to come in ahead of Vodicek, but it's still very close between those two, and still to come round, Karolina Jankowska, the 13-year-old, back in fourth place. Damasovic out in front doing almost 30 knots, but here is the battle we're most interested in, the simultaneous jibes between Laporte in red on the left and Vodicek on the right.
Yeah, that was incredible gains up the beat there for Tiana. I didn't think that overtake was going to happen, but really good choice for her. I think everyone will be looking at those more tactical decisions and what side of the course is paying. They're really close now on this downwind. It's still all to play for.
Coming down towards the bottom of the course, it's still to the advantage of Laporte with the red kite.
Pretty matched on speed as well on the downwind, going into this final slalom, which is always the most exciting part of the course.
And things can change at the slalom as well. Let's see how Julia Damasovic on the left in the lead deals with the slalom. She's just about to reach that point. There is the slalom mark, which sometimes spells disaster round that 180-degree turn, but she seems like she's come out of it. It's quite a wide turn, but she can afford it because she's got a good lead on Laporte. And Vodicek has dropped back behind Laporte, so it looks increasingly like Laporte is going to take the second spot through to the quarter-final. Here comes Julia Damasovic. She was the favourite to break out of the repechage, and the Polish rider makes no mistake to win the repechage round and go through to the quarter-final. And it's just 5 seconds more of hard reaching for Tiana Laporte with the red kite executing that fantastic overtaking manoeuvre on the second windward leg, and Tiana Laporte books her place in the next round here on home waters in Sardinia. So congratulations to her, and commiserations to Slovenia's Marina Vodicek, who was overtaken, and also to Poland's 13-year-old Karolina Jankowska, who is last but was still through to the top 10 of the competition here. KiteFoil World Series, Italy, in Cagliari in the south of Sardinia. So there we have it. There's confirmation. Julia Damasovic, Tiana Laporte through to the quarterfinal. Marina Vodicek, Karolina Jankowska, they are knocked out of this round at the end of the repechage. So we will go to a quick break and back to you soon. Right, so we are about 3.5 minutes away from the start of the repechage for the men. And I'll just remind you who they are. So we have Kai Calder from the USA in only his second ever medal series, as the ever-improving American still continues to learn his craft. And then Denis Taradin, he's been in plenty of these medal series in the past from Cyprus. Same for Yannis Maus of Germany. He loves a port tack start. Watch out for that. And Riccardo Pianozzi from Italy, the 18-year-old, who will be disappointed if he would have finished anywhere between 7th and 10th. He will definitely want to be breaking out of this group and into the quarterfinal. So we've got 3 minutes to go, and we're on board the 2:45, and we're on board with the race committee. And we're very fortunate with this breeze. This is coming maybe a little bit stronger than we might have expected, Jimmy.
Absolutely, yeah. Sardinia just throwing in the unexpected breeze.
Now,
very grateful for these wins.
Julia Damasovic, that was a very, very tight cross, wasn't it, with Tiana Laporte? In the end, it doesn't really matter because it was those two that went through. But we didn't see the arm go up from Laporte. I'm thinking, was she just being nice to Julia, or was there just no incident?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think maybe in Tiana's point of view, it was an okay cross. It was close, but maybe Julia just timed it perfectly.
Yeah. Well done to those two. I think there is a great example of how the format works. And it requires fast thinking, doesn't it? When you're your own speed, you're your own skipper, you're your own tactician, own strategist. I mean, there's so much for these riders to think about all at once. 1 minute 30 to go, and just remind you again, it's USA's Kai Calder, Cyprus' Denis Taradin, Germany's Yannis Maus, and Italy's Riccardo Pianozzi. So I'm going to make a call and suggest that, as I say that, I think they're all lining up for a starboard. But I was going to say Yannis Maus, he loves a port tack start. Surely Yannis is going to go for it, but looks like it's going to be 4 on starboard, do you think?
Yeah, it does seem that way. We can see the black VMG of Yannis Maus there lining up for a starboard start. So I think all of them are pretty convinced that that's the way to go for this one, which is interesting considering the gains that Tiana made going outright in the previous race.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So are they missing a trick by not going for the port tack start? But that said, Marina Vodicek, the going right, being the only port tack starter, didn't work out. I mean, it didn't work out terribly, but it wasn't the winning move for her either. So 25 seconds to go. And it's all about hitting that line at speed, but not being so soon, not so early. You remember, Jimmy, just a week or so ago in Trounsey in the repechage, we saw 2 UFD disqualifications. So that just left the other 2 that were remaining to go straight through. So it was the end of the race almost before it began. Here we go now, 3 seconds to go. It looks like it's going to be a clear start. Everybody starting on starboard.
We can see Riccardo Pianozzi, who won the boat there. He's furthest right, tacking out now.
So he's...
and a crash from Riccardo.
Oh, that's awful for the Italian. He's back up and running again, so very, very quick recovery, but that is not a great start for Pianozzi. He's got a lot of work to do now. Let's just see that again, just going into the tack.
I wonder if he hit something there.
There has been this rogue plastic out there that's caught people out. Just that one plastic bag out on the race course that always seems to catch someone out, but does it really have to catch out one of Italy's favourite riders here on home waters out of Poeto Beach and Cagliari? Let's see how Pianozzi can recover. The first to go out to the right hand side. And now we see the others tacking. Denis Taradin is already making his way over to the far side, joining Riccardo Pianozzi. Yannis Maus, the next to go, and Kai Calder, the last to tack on to port. And so now we're in a speed match. Everyone's got clear air to put the hammer down. Who do you think might be fastest in these conditions?
Well, I can see Denis going for the tack now, so he's already on the lay line. He's looking good. Riccardo's tacked behind him. We'll see if Ricky can make those gains back up again. But I think Denis Taradin is looking pretty strong coming into this windward mark.
So the rider from Cyprus already well ahead of Riccardo Pianozzi, who had that crash down. And it looks like it's Yannis Maus who's tacking him behind. But Kai Calder cut in between the two. Could be the American with the black kite is going to get round in third. So round goes Dennis Taradin. Second round, Kai Calder. No, Yanis Mouse in second, Kai Calder in third, and bringing up the rear, Riccardo Pianozzi with a lot of work to do. So Kai Calder going on the attack with Yanis Mouse. Again, with the women's repechage, we saw a clear leader with Julia Damasovic, and at the moment, Dennis Taradin has a bit of breathing space, but look at the simultaneous jibes with Kai Calder attacking Yanis Mouse and trying to overtake for that crucial second place through to the quarterfinal.
Yeah, we can see Kai Calder going for pure speed mode, trying to overtake Yanis over the top there. Yanis with a much deeper angle. This is going to be down to the wire, I think. Meanwhile, Dennis Taradin with an epic lead.
And Kai Calder, I wonder, probably not with where the apparent win is coming from. I was wondering if he was starting to get into an attacking space to take Yanis Mouse's win, but I don't think that's quite on for the American. So Mouse is managing to just about hold on to second place, but Kai Calder again executing a simultaneous jibe with Yanis Mouse. And look at the gap. I mean, there's barely 3 board lengths between them.
It is incredibly close.
Round they go for the critical rounding. Very well executed by Yanis Mouse, leaving no breathing room for Kai Calder to do anything but follow. But surely one of these is going to attack very soon. We know that it can be strong on the right-hand side. Kai Calder living in the bad air of Yanis Mouse. Would you agree? Is there a bit of a problem there for Calder?
Yeah, that'll be a little bit of bad. He's pushing through, trying to go for the undertake there. Meanwhile, we see Ricky doing every move he can to just bring it back. He's been jibing first, tacking first. We'll see if that right-hand side can pull him through closer to that second spot.
Relatively flat water, would you agree? I mean, there's a bit of chop, but I remember last year, particularly with Daniela Moroz, when we had the Formula Kite World Championships here, it was more like a motocross course going on the downwind. It was so rough and bumpy, but this is relatively flat water at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. It's protected a bit by the mountain with this particular wind direction. So yeah, a little bit flatter. Bit of an easier ride.
Yanis Mouse on the right, Dennis Taradin still leading, and then Kai Calder going for attack on the left-hand side, tacking ahead of Riccardo Pianozzi. Bit of a splashy tack by Kai Calder. Yanis Mouse yet to complete his tack. Here goes Mouse's black kite rolling through the air and staying just ahead of Kai Calder. Dennis Taradin had his first ever crash-free regatta in Trounsey just a week ago. Can you believe that? In 10 years of kiteboard racing, Dennis has always had a crash, but he avoided it last year in Austria. I think he's already got his crashes out the way at this regatta. He's already had 1 or 2. But so far, so good for him in this one. Dennis Taradin still leading. Yanis Mouse in second, and Kai Calder actually starting to be caught by Riccardo Pianozzi, but it doesn't really matter about that. More importantly, Kai Calder and Pianozzi have to try and overtake Yanis Mouse, and it's probably going to take an unforced error either from Taradin or Mouse, some kind of fault for the other two to catch up, because it's looking increasingly like these quarterfinal places are going to go to Cyprus and Germany.
Absolutely. We're seeing really good speeds from Kai, though. He's got such a speedy downwind mode. He was pushing on 34 knots, 35 just a second ago. Will it be enough to catch Yanis Mouse, who is about to go for his jibe?
So there's the overhead view from our tracking. Taradin, 32 knots of speed as he is about to go into his final jibe. And it's looking close again between Mouse and Calder. Mouse just staying ahead, but we've still got that dreaded slalom jibe to go around, so it's not home and hosed for Mouse yet. And look, Riccardo Pianozzi even wanting a piece of the action. So Pianozzi, after that early crash down from the tack, it could still be in contention. It's going to take a mistake from somebody. So far, so good for Denis Taradin from Cyprus, looking increasingly like he's going to get his spot. But it's so close between the final three. Riccardo Pianozzi pushing really hard to overtake. It looks like he might have got Kai Calder. Yanis Mouse, does he even know where Riccardo Pianozzi is? Yanis Mouse just about holding on for second. Pianozzi and Calder pushing all the way. No one can afford to let up. It's push, push, push all the way. Maximum strength through the legs. Yanis Mouse just crosses the line in second in just a remarkable finish. FMCG, Jimmy. That
FMCG indeed.
was amazing.
That was wild. I mean, the comeback from Riccardo Pianozzi there, that was exceptional. And to have a pretty much photo finish with the three of them, I think Yanis seemed to just clinch it there. But wow, the battle that those three had for that second spot.
Who would have thought? And Riccardo Pianozzi, just for that one mistake at the start. Look how strong he was at the finish. Terrible shame for him. Well done to Kai Calder, relatively inexperienced up at this front end of the fleet, but he acquitted himself super well. But in the end, it wasn't enough to overtake the black kite of Yanis Mouse. So it's Denis Taradin of Cyprus, Yanis Mouse to Germany. And we know that those guys have the form and the class to go all the way. So it'll be interesting to see how far they progress. Right, quick break and back to you shortly. Right, what a race we just saw then. I'm loving this format, Jimmy. I know you're not actively competing anymore, but what's the mood on the beach about this? Are you getting any feedback from people?
Yeah, I think, well, as we've just seen, Denis Taradin, he came into this medal series in 9th, and he's already at least guaranteed an 8th position moving up into that next round. So I think it's such a good format to be able to just climb up through these rounds, and it gives everybody a good shot at that top spot, really.
Excellent. Now we have got about just under 4 minutes to go to the next one, and this is going to be quarter-final with the women. So if you remember just now, it was Poland's Julia Damasovic and Italy's Tiana Laporte that made their way through from the repechage, and they're going to be joining our quarter-final qualifiers, Alexia Fancelli from France and Italy's Sofia Tomasoni. So we got two Italians in this one. Could it be double success for Italy getting through the quarterfinals here on home waters, Poeto Beach in the south of Sardinia? We'll take a quick break and we'll be back to you shortly for the start of this race. So we are about 2.5 minutes away from the start of the quarterfinal in the women's competition. Julia Damasovic already broken through from the repechage, and I would still put Julia possibly as the favourite in this next round. I think she's had a bit of a subpar opening series. I think on past form, I would say that Damasovic would still start as the favourite. But Jimmy, you used to race against Tomasoni, Fancelli, Damasovic and Laporte. So what's your take on these four?
It's hard to say. They've all got their strengths. I know that this kind of slalom really suits Sofia Tomasoni. She's incredibly quick on a reach, but then you have good upwind riders like Alexia, and Julia's amazing on the downwind. And Tiana's Italian. She knows this place, so I couldn't call it. They're all fantastic kiters.
Any reason for anybody to have changed from a 15 square metre since the last race, do you think?
I don't think so. It looks like they're all on their 15s still at the moment. So, yeah, it's looking to be the kite choice of the day so far.
And based on what we've seen with starboard and port tack starts, starboard looks like it's been more successful, but we've seen more starboard tack starts, so that doesn't necessarily mean it's the winning move. Do you think there's any merit in the port tack start?
Well, I'm guessing that the line is quite square, so it's probably quite difficult to actually make that port cross. We can see them going, oh, I may have spoken too soon.
They're going, so the port tack start is going to take it.
Alexia Francelli, incredible stuff. She is convinced on that right-hand start. Beautiful port start.
What a great early win for Fancelli from France. I think she's got a bit of an Italian name. Anyway, she is representing France, and that's an early win for her. And then it's Tiana Laporte tacking away with the red kites. And then
Julia Damasovic also tacking. Last attack being Sofia Tomasoni from Italy.
And a bit of a slow tack there from Tomasoni as well. So we've got Italian Tomasoni on the far right. We've got Italian red kite of Tiana Laporte. In between the Italians, Giulia Damasovic, and on the far side, on the left, Alexia Fancelli from France with that incredible port tack start. I think I'm gonna have a bit of a gamble, Jimmy, but I think that's going to put her in an early lead.
She is looking good so far. Yeah, with that attack, she's the first calling that ley line. We'll see if she makes the cross with Tiana. It's going to be close.
And has she called that ley line right as well? That's what we've also got to find out. But it looks like Laporte is going to be able to get in front of her and possibly, if this is a well-executed tack, put Fancelli in dirty air. So that's not worked out as well as I'd predicted for Fancelli. So good tack executed by Tiana Laporte, but it could be that Julia Damasovic is about to do the same to both of them. So we will find out in a moment.
So Julia just in front, but Sofia Tomasoni, our leader at the moment.
So that suggests that actually holding a little bit left for longer on this race has worked out very well, because it was Tomasoni who was last to tack onto port, and we find the Italian leading now. And it's another tack at the back for Fancelli. So has she not quite made the ley line? Seems like the other three think they have. But, I mean, I'm quite surprised that Fancelli felt that she had to do that.
Interesting decision from Alexia.
It's really put her on the back foot, and I just feel like has she sailed extra distance in order to do that? It's made it a much easier ley line, but look how far behind Fancelli has dropped behind Tiana Laporte. So Tiana has it all to do now with the red kite going into a jibe, Tomasoni jibing as well. And now Damasovic in second. Do you think there's been any slight drop in the breeze, Jimmy?
It does seem that way. I think Alexia was unlucky with that right-hand side. I think that seems to be where the breeze kind of drops down before the rest of the course. So I think she might have hit a bit of a soft patch.
So the speeds are still pretty good, but do you just have to do higher angles to maintain the apparent wind when the wind drops?
Yeah, your angles don't tend to be as extreme in the lighter stuff. But these girls are still sending it.
27 knots of speed for Tomasoni in the lead, being chased by Julia Damasovic. And remember, in the way that this works, to get through from the quarterfinal through to the semi-final, through to the next round, it is, again, just make sure that you're in the front two. But look how Laporte with the red kite is starting to threaten Julia Damasovic in second, and not far ahead Sofia Tomasoni. So this looks like a 3-2 battle with Alexia Fancelli bringing up the rear but out of picture.
Oh, but it's a double jibe from Tiana. And Julia. It looks like both of those girls have underlaid that leeward mark. Has Sofia Tomasoni called it?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So well done to Sophia Tomasoni. Very well executed. Bit of a too early jibe decision by Damasovic and Laporte, and it's not the best of roundings for Laporte. That's putting her into a compromised position against Julia Damasovic. So a bit of breathing room again for the Polish rider currently in second place. And rounding at the back, Alexia Fancelli, with a lot of work to do and a wise move to go straight into attack, even if it's potentially to the weaker side of the course. You've just got to hope at this stage when you're back in last that you find something better over there, right, Jimmy?
Exactly. You've got to do something different and just hope it works.
Going into attack, Sophia Tomasoni, she must already believe that she's fairly far up on the ley line on this side of the course, so that's all playing nicely into her hands for the Italian to defend her lead at the moment, with Julia Damasovic similarly fairly comfortable on Tiana Laporte in third, and on the far side, Alexia Fancelli hoping to find some kind of gust from Cagliari to carry her past her three rivals.
And you can see Tiana on the red kite there. She's putting the hammer down. She's going for a lower mode, hoping to underroll Julia there. She's got good speed behind her. See if this beat is long enough for her to make that overtake.
Yeah, this is the problem, isn't it? You've got very limited time to be able to make your passing moves. And so I think it's the right thing for Tiana Laporte to do with her red kite. But really, it's still pretty comfortable for Julia Damasovic to cover second place. But of course, we've got another downwind, and we've got the slalom slingshot around that final jibe mark. So there's plenty of jeopardy left on this race course. Now, Tomasoni, either Tomasoni's overtacked and given herself a bit of space, or Julia Damasovic has done a thin ley line, or maybe we'll find out. But it's pretty comfortable for Tomasoni at the moment, and the gap back to Laporte is also pretty comfortable for Julia Damasovic. So it looks at the moment like it's going to be Tomasoni and Damasovic going through to the next round, the semi-final in the women's competition.
Really nice lead there from Sophia Tomasoni. We're seeing in both of these races we've seen so far, the leader just tends to extend, and it's more of a battle for that second position, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right. That's what we've tended to see in the races so far. And Tomasoni really not putting a foot wrong so far. Damasovic, having said that, has some better depth. So I don't know if it's different breeze or different sailing style, but Damasovic is finding better depth down the race course than Tomasoni.
You can see Sophia thinking about a jibe there. Now she's going for it. I think she wasn't too sure if she could jibe with Julia's depth just blocking her there. But both of them are now on that port downwind.
And it does look increasingly strong for Damasovic. She just looks like she's got a little bit of depth on Tomasoni the whole time. But Tomasoni going a little bit faster through the water. So slightly different modes in the way that they're attacking this. On the far side, it's the red kite of Tiana Laporte. Still looks quite distant. It looks a little bit softer over there, maybe. I do wonder if the left-hand side of the racetrack going upwind has the better breeze.
I think so. It does seem to be the case for this race. Sophia's gone out full left both times, and it's really worked for her. I wonder if Tiana's just underlaid there again. It looks like this downwind ley line is quite tricky to call.
It does, doesn't it? And who of the front two is going to call the jibe earlier? It looks like Julia Damasovic is going for that jibe now, and Tomasoni responding as well. But who has judged their approach to the ley line best? It's very close now between the front two. So Damasovic has really closed the gap on Tomasoni. But girls, remember, you can work together on this. You don't actually, for bragging rights, by all means win the race, but it doesn't actually make a material difference whether you're first or second. So the silliest thing they could do is get involved in some kind of jibing battle around this final slalom, and for one of them to crash down. So just with the red mist, it's really hard to think about all that detail while you're going at this kind of speed. But Damasovic has overtaken Tomasoni. Tomasoni may be deciding just take foot off the gas. As long as she has the first of the two Italians through the line. It's going to be good enough to book her spot in the next round with Julia Damasovic, who has overtaken, is going to win the quarterfinal, and that will be 2 wins so far for Damasovic, and that's got to be good for her confidence, but also great for Sofia Tomasoni that she's managed to break through to the next round, and unfortunate for Tiana Laporte in third and Alexia Fancelli that they don't manage to make it through. And quite a big gap at the end, Jimmy, between those ones and the back markers.
Exactly. That was an incredible battle from Sofia Tomasoni and Julia Damasovic. I think Julia's downwind is incredible, and she made really, really good gains there. So I think those two just kind of battling together meant that they extended on the other two. And yeah, they're both going into the semi-final.
Right, a very quick break and we'll be back to you in the next race. There's Sofia Tomasoni, successfully qualified through to the next round. Quick run ashore. Will there be a change of kite? It did seem a little bit softer. So you can choose any size of kite you like in KiteFoil World Series. So if she was going to change anything at all, what do you think that might be, Jimmy?
Well, I think you made a good observation in the race before. I think the wind has died a little bit. So it seems to me like they'll be going up a kite size to the 21 metre.
Okay, so that's the that's the U flag, isn't it? The red and white, is that right?
Yeah, so we've got 1 minute now until our next race, and it's the men's quarterfinal.
Okay, so let's just update you on who we've got in this. We've got our qualifiers from the repechage, that's Yanis Maus and Dennis Taradin. Joining the quarterfinal qualifiers, Max Nochet from France and Flo Gruber from Germany. So we've got some very strong performers here, and it's one of those quarterfinals. You could almost argue this should be a semi-final. These are really strong contenders. So there's definitely going to be some 2 disappointed riders to come away from this. It's 2 going through and 2 being knocked out. 15 seconds to go, and you can just see that's the yellow bib of Laurent Nelot just going out there. So here it looks like we got 3 going for the port tack start this time round.
So it's just only Dennis going for that. Oh, we saw an arm there.
Yes, so Dennis Taradin with the arm up, suggesting he's protesting for some reason. So is he protesting in advance of people crossing him on port tack and saying, I don't think they've crossed me successfully? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we'll see what we can find out if there is any consequence to Dennis's arm going up there. So it's Taradin going out to the left, which actually I'm increasingly liking the left-hand side. So we'll see how Taradin comes out against the other 3.
And we can see Florian Gruber at the bottom right-hand side of our screen, pushing out quite nicely to that right-hand side. Meanwhile, we've got a good battle going between Maxime Nochet and Yanis Maus. Everyone on bigger kites now. I
was going to say, so are they all on 23s or 21s? Do you know what they're on?
I think there's a mixture out there between 23 metres and 21s.
Okay, so the 23 is the biggest we ever see in the men's competition.
Looks like Flo Gruber's on a 21 metre there, and he's tacked and crossed those other 2. We'll see how his ley line is.
It looks a bit thin, doesn't it? I wonder if Flo Gruber's cut it a bit fine on the ley line. Meanwhile, Dennis Taradin, not looking great for Dennis from my eye at the moment. So I thought the left might work out quite nicely for Cyprus on the far side, but it looks like he's going to be coming in behind Flo Gruber. And he's going to be close on with the other 2. Is there room for him to tack in here? He thinks there is. Let's see how well he executes. It's relatively flat water. And
the high mode of Flo Gruber, will it work for him around this windward mark?
No, it won't. So, ouch. Is there enough space for Gruber to get across the front? It looks like he's just about got away with it. So he manages to do that, but it drops Gruber back from almost first to a definite last. So Flo Gruber with so much work to do now. And if there's one consolation for him, it's that the other three are extremely close and hopefully will slow each other down.
Incredible rounding from Yannis Mouse there. He got a lot deeper than the other two, and I wonder if this will make the difference for him in this race. We can see Dennis Taradin going for that first jibe, Maxime carrying on, and Yannis matching that jibe as well.
So Maxime Nochet, we've seen him go very quickly on the downwind legs. We saw that at the European Championships in Portsmouth just a month or so ago. So let's see if Nochet can make his downwind pace stick. But someone's going very fast. That's Dennis Taradin. He seems like he's got a really good low mode. So Dennis Taradin looking like he's getting down across the front of Yannis Mouse. So it's really tight between the front three. And I talked about that raised arm of Dennis Taradin earlier off the start line, where we've heard from the umpires that was green flag, so there was no penalty and no incident. So meanwhile, Max Nochet marginally leading ahead of Yannis Mouse, with Dennis Taradin not far behind, and a great rounding by Taradin, putting him in a good position. And it's Yannis Mouse, if anything, at the top three with a lot of work to do.
So I think that might be Yannis Mouse nailing his roundings today. He's just to windward of the other two, but we can see Maxime Nochet punching out of that pack of three. Meanwhile, Florian Gruber in the fourth position, tacking out and hoping that the right-hand side will pay for him. Yannis Mouse also tacking now.
So two Germans have tacked, and now Maxime Nochet tacks and Dennis Taradin tacks. Pumping the board, it seems like even with these bigger kites, the breeze is beginning to drop away, and it's turning into a different kind of game now, Jimmy.
Absolutely, and we can see that reflected in these riders' speeds up and downwind. It's just not the kind of 30, 35 knots of speeds that we were seeing earlier in the day. So upwind, these are low 20s. Usually would see about mid-20, like 25 knots for upwind on a 15 metre. So yeah, the wind is dying, but it's still steady. They just have to pick where they tack well.
Yes, well, Flo Gruber better do that better than he did on the first leg, because it was under tacking that ley line that really got the German into trouble. But Flo Gruber has tacked, and he's still got ground to make up on the other three. It's still looking difficult for Gruber to get back into this. Yannis Mouse has now tacked, and now it's Dennis Taradin and Maxime Nochet going for simultaneous tacks. Who do you think is looking best placed here, Jimmy?
So Maxime is doing a pretty good job. He's got a marginal lead on Dennis Taradin there going around this windward, but they're all pretty racked up here.
So Nochet and Taradin currently would go through to the next round, to the semi-final. Yannis Mouse, he will be desperate to make up the ground, as will the other German, Flo Gruber. So down the final run, good depth by Maxime Nochet. Dennis Taradin going a little bit faster, but also sending a little bit more distance. Taradin going for the jibe, matched by Maxime Nochet. And it's looking very soft in places. It looks quite soft up at the top of the screen, up where all those moored yachts are. So the early jibe for the Germans, it's the only tactical play they've got left, but I'm not sure it's a particularly strong one.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot softer now. We can see these front two making gains on those two German riders. Still battling at the front there. It looks like they're both on a 23 metre, so that'll give them the power they need to have that extra bit of speed, extra bit of depth as well.
So time running out for Germany to make an impact on this race and to get one of Germany's riders through to the next leg. But it is going soft. There's a bit of pumping of the legs required through these jibes, so things could get sketchy. Everyone's got to be on their guard, and this is turning into a much more subtle kind of competition. You can't afford to put a foot wrong when the breeze is softening like this. Dennis Taradin putting Maxime Nochet under pressure, but I'm sure it won't be lost on Taradin that all he needs to do is get across the line in the front two. He doesn't need to be first. He doesn't need to do a Damasovic if he doesn't want to. He's just got to stay ahead of those two Germans in third and fourth. Here goes the jibe for Maxime Nochet, still leading Dennis Taradin with a really good rounding, possibly with an ability to overtake, but a lot of pumping required out of that jibe, so not such a great jibe for Taradin. But it seems like they are safely up and running on the foil again. And Maxime Nochet, the Frenchman, about to book his spot through to the semi-final, followed by Dennis Taradin, with time running out for Yannis Maus or Florian Gruber to move any further forward into the competition. Yannis Maus getting oh so close, but it's not going to be enough because Nochet's already across the line. Taradin gets across the line just ahead of Yannis Maus, and Flo Gruber bringing up the rear. So unfortunate for Germany, but good news for France and for Cyprus, moving through to the next round. We'll take a quick break and back to you soon for the next race.
DR5, built to win.
So there's Dennis Taradin with his yellow arms successfully through to the next round. Jimmy, we had two qualifiers from the repechage that have now gone straight past the quarterfinal qualifiers, and they've moved straight through to the next round. So Flo Gruber and Max Nochet, they were sorry, I'm getting it wrong. Yeah, Max Nochet is through to the next round, and it's Flo Gruber that didn't make it through. Sorry. So it's Max and Dennis. So it's one qualifier. Dennis Taradin coming through 2 rounds now to get through to the semi-finals.
Yes, epic scenes from Dennis. Again, that's this format really kind of coming through. So we knew Dennis was a strong rider. We saw him do some great things in Austria. And yeah, we'll see how far he can climb.
Well, that's got to be great for his confidence. The breeze is dropping. Dennis Taradin, how do you rate him in a softening breeze? Is he still good in that stuff?
I think all of these riders that we're seeing now are some of the best in the world. So I think kind of anything you throw at them, they're excellent.
Well, we will see who has the greatest amount of excellence coming up soon. Meanwhile, we should be getting into our next semi-final women, and it's going to be in just 1:45, and here are our runners and riders. Our qualifiers from earlier, Julia Damasovic and Sofia Tomasoni, coming through from the lower order, and they're joining the ones that have already qualified. We've yet to see them race today. Elena Lengvila from Switzerland and Maggie Pichetto from Italy. So Julia Damasovic, she's come through from the repechage, she's come through the quarterfinal, and still, because I rate Julia Damasovic so highly, of these 4 riders, of Pichetto, Lengvila, Tomasoni and Damasovic, I'm going to stick my neck out and say that I still think Damasovic would be the favourite of these 4, Jimmy, but you're welcome to disagree if you think that I'm doing anybody else down, but I put the Polish rider as a strong favourite to get one of these 2 spots.
Yeah, she's incredible in the light wind. She's got a great upwind high mode and a wonderful downwind kind of deep mode, low mode. So she's got the modes for this kind of breeze, and her starts are usually pretty bang on. So hopefully we'll see one of those fantastic Julia Damasovic starts here. All of the riders lining up on starboard.
And do you think they're all riding up on maximum size kites?
It does seem that way. I think with this dying breeze, they'll definitely be going for that bigger kite option.
And the way that this breeze has been dying, it looks more like the left-hand side is the stronger way to go up the course. So it's not that surprising to see 4 riders starting on starboard, and we're just 3 seconds away as the kites swing down into the power zone. And it looks like it's Eleanor Langweiler who is winning the pin, and potentially a good start for the Swiss rider.
So we can see Eleanor Langweiler winning the pin and Julia Damasovic, as predicted, winning the boat. So we'll see which kind of strategy works in this race. It's been changing race to race, I think.
And Jimmy, you talked about the high mode of Julia Damasovic. That's exactly what we're seeing here. She's maybe not the fastest, but look at the windward ground that she's gaining there. It's tactically very strong, isn't it?
Exactly. If you can control the other 3 riders, then it is such a good skill to have. And we can see her just slowly creating that distance to windward of the other 3. Meanwhile, I just want to say, Eleanor Langweiler, that speed down the bottom of our screen is spectacular.
Isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, it's a slightly lower mode, not tactically as strong. She's going to have to wait for the other riders to tack, and she's still got one more to wait for. But in terms of speed through the water, very impressive indeed. And now that Tomasoni has tacked, Eleanor Langweiler should also be able to tack fairly soon. And so we got all 4 on port tack now. But how will it work out for Julia Damasovic, who was so high, a little bit slow, but so high and tactically in a strong position? How will it work out? We'll see.
Again, a much shorter course, so that port ley line, it kind of comes up on you quite quickly. So we'll see how these guys have called their ley lines. So
it's Damasovic on the far left, Pachetto next along. Then it's Sophia Tomasoni, and on the right, it's Eleanor Langweiler. So it's 2 Italians in the middle of your screen.
So Julia Damasovic looking really strong there. Meanwhile, I think the other 3 went a little bit too far left.
Maybe overstanding?
Yeah, overstanding, exactly. And so we can see Julia Damasovic pumping to get that windward rounding in.
And is it going to be enough? Let's see. It looks like Maggie Pachetto is around in first place, and then Julia Damasovic, and then that misjudgment that you talked about, overstanding on the spacer mark, that yellow mark in the middle of your screen, is costing Sophia Tomasoni and Elena Langweiler dearly. And this is the problem with where Elena started, is she was fast, but she was at the mercy of when Tomasoni decided to tack, and Tomasoni was late in her decision to tack, and that really has played into the hands of our front 2, Pachetto and Damasovic. But the movement of these kites through the jibes is a lot slower. The whole game is slowing down a bit, isn't it, Jimmy?
Exactly. The wind is really light now. We could see Sophia's jibe at the top just a second ago was on the edge. So it's definitely light there. We can see the Italian rider Maggie in the lead at the moment, with Julia Damasovic just to windward of her. Sophia Tomasoni being the first to jibe onto that leeward ley line.
And the slow movement of these kites, but compared with just a couple of races ago, it's so different to see. And some pumping required by Pachetto as she comes out of her jibe to try and maintain her lead. And settling down, but still a bit of pumping required. So if she thinks that she's struggling to get down to the ley line, what's it like for the others coming in from a higher angle? But successful rounding from Pachetto, and it looks like she's called that angle quite well. And actually, having said that, Julia Damasovic from a higher line has also done okay. And Sophia Tomasoni coming round in third, still close enough to Damasovic to be a worry for her, and then Langweiler bringing up the rear in fourth place.
Maggie looking strong in the lead there.
Maggie Pachetto said to me earlier today she was looking forward to these potentially, well, she was, at the time we were talking about potentially an offshore breeze, which hasn't worked out that way. She was quite looking forward to the shifty stuff if it was blowing off the city of Cagliari. But anyway, even in these conditions and these more predictable conditions blowing on shore, Pachetto is looking very strong indeed. And this is only her second ever time in a medal series. I think her last one was 2019. So this is, I mean, she's already done phenomenally well to get into the top 10, but then to be sailing the way that she is in the top 10 and coming through, I mean, winning a race yesterday and starting the day in third place. She's sailing on home waters in absolutely amazing form. Pichetto and Damasovic, as it stands, would go through. Tomasoni will be desperate to try and overtake one of the front two. It would be great for Italy if two Italians were to get through from this, but at the moment it looks like it's only going to be Pichetto. But as I say, that is still very close between the next two. So Tomasoni is not out of this, but it looks for Langvela in fourth place. It's looking a little bit too distant now. It looks like Pichetto increasingly is going to win this race, and then it's going to be who can beat who between Damasovic and Tomasoni.
Yeah, there's a great battle for that second position going on at the moment, with Giulia just ahead of Sofia Tomasoni. Meanwhile, Maggie doing a great job in the lead. You can definitely see this is much lighter wind. It's changed a lot from earlier.
Pichetto going for the jibe, relatively early jibe. She's decided she's going to call her own shot. She's not going to wait for anybody else.
We can see all of the girls pumping out of that jibe, so that's an indicator that this wind is pretty light for that 21 metre. But still seeing speeds just about pushing on 20 knots downwind. So it's amazing how fast you can still go in, I'm guessing it's about 6-7 knots out there, Andy, would you say?
Yes, I would say that it is down to about 6 or 7 knots, and they are travelling at speeds that I have rarely hit in my 40 years of sailing, even though I sail relatively high-performance skiffs. But, you know, doing anything over 20 knots is pretty exceptional in wind-powered sport. And yet we're looking at this thinking we're seeing a slow race.
Exactly. And we can see all of the girls have gone for a slightly different ley line there. I wonder how Maggie will... Oh, there we go. She's double jibing. She's underlaid. We'll see if she can just get in another jibe ahead of those other two.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be an unnecessary misjudgment by Pichetto. She had enough distance to give herself an easy ley line, and those extra jibes, that's really not what she needs at this point. Tomasoni up into the lead. Can you believe this? Tomasoni into the lead. Damasovic in third, and Pichetto through those double jibes. That misjudgment has put her potentially into knockout out of this round. So what a disastrous moment for Pichetto. It's still very close, but Tomasoni is now the Italian in the lead, not Pichetto. Can Tomasoni capitalise on that great downwind decision to leave it a little bit later on the ley line? Tomasoni now going through the jibe. Damasovic still in second. She was behind an Italian. Now she's behind a different Italian. And Pichetto, a bit of a sketchy jibe. Pichetto struggling to hold on to staying in the air, but she's done that, but to the detriment of giving away distance to Tomasoni, who looks increasingly like she is going to come through from third to win this race in just the last minute of this semi-final. So what an amazing turnaround for Sofia Tomasoni, who is about to cross the finish line. And what an incredible performance under pressure for Sofia Tomasoni to win that race. And Giulia Damasovic again coming through. Okay, not winning this time, but it doesn't matter because Damasovic has come through all the way from repechage, through quarterfinal, through semi-final, and now she has booked her spot along with Sofia Tomasoni in the four-rider final. What an amazing performance, Jimmy.
That was incredible, especially for Sofia to come through from that third position. We didn't know if she could do it, and to find herself coming through the line first, incredible performance. And it's crazy how just one mistake, one poor ley line call could just open the door for those other two to come through ahead of Maggie.
No, that's desperately sad for Maggie Pichetto, but absolutely fantastic for Sofia Tomasoni. Quick break and back to you soon. Right, we have 2 minutes to the start of the semi-final for the men. And Jimmy, one of the challenges of this commentary when we have so many international riders is pronunciation. And we've got a Greek rider that I've struggled to pronounce his name, and I know others. And sometimes I find that the best way to sort of get my tongue warmed up is to tackle other difficult words like colonoscopy or anti-disestablishmentarianism, which I think is the longest word in the English language. And that helps me when I try to pronounce the name of the Greek rider, Cameron Maramonides. Did I say that right?
I think so. So, funny fact about Cameron. So he's got a tattoo of his surname written in the Greek script on his collarbone, and I said, "Oh, Cameron, like, you're Greek. Can you read Greek script?" And he said that he can read up to 3rd grade level, so he's not even sure if his own tattoo is correct on his body of his surname.
Well, there is a great fun fact for Cameron Maramonides, who is one of the riders we haven't spoken about yet today, along with Martin Dolenc of Croatia, because they already booked their spots in this semi-final, to be joined by our qualifiers from previous rounds, Maxime Nochet of France and Denis Taradin. And remember, it's the Cypriot sailor Denis Taradin who's come through the repechage, through the quarterfinal, is now into the semi-final. Can he maintain that form and go through to the final in the men in the way that we've seen Julia Damasovic fight her way all the way through all the rounds into the final? There's a bit of inspiration for Denis Taradin and anybody else that fancies their chances of getting all the way through today.
And we can see Cameron is the only rider lining up on starboard there. The other 3 going for that port start. We'll see what comes out on top for this race.
5 seconds to go, and it's 3 port tack starters, 1 starboard tack starter, and someone's down, someone's had a crash down. There's only 3 riders coming off this line.
So that's Denis Taradin, who hasn't yet crossed the line. It's looking really light at the moment. We can see the red kite of Martin Dolenc, and just to windward of him, Maxime Nochet with a slightly better start there. Cameron Maramonides going out left. We'll see what side of the course is better for this race. It's been changing a lot out there. I think it's pretty patchy. You've just got to find the best breeze in the moment.
Well, this is a disaster for Denis Taradin, who we can't see in picture at the moment because he's so far back, and I imagine has not even crossed the start line. And you can see to the left that he hasn't. So there's only 3 riders in this. This is a 3-horse race. And it looks like this side of the course is paying. What do you think, Jimmy? I think these 2 riders are looking stronger on the right-hand side.
It's looking good, and Martin's speed and height there, his VMG is amazing. He's really coming through. We can see it's a lot lighter now. Maxime just pumping there. This is going to be a difficult tack for both of those riders. Probably thinking about the tack soon, but if it were me, I'd want to overlay here because that is going to be tricky. Going for the jibe. So now that's an indicator that we know this is really light. I don't think I've ever seen the guys jibe to go upwind before.
Wow. Oh, it's not working out for Nochet. It's not. Oh, as it has. Let's see, Martin Dolenc, he's fighting so hard to keep that red and black kite in the sky. He knows that Nochet hasn't managed it, and I mean, they're all struggling now. This has been abandoned. We've just heard that it's abandoned, so that's so unfortunate. But what a get out of jail for Denis Taradin. The writing was already on the wall when Denis didn't even make the start line, but he must have been hoping that something like this would happen. And Jimmy, what you don't want is your kite dropping in the water. There's only one person that's managed to keep their kite in the air, and that's Cameron Maramonides.
Exactly, yeah, he's doing a good job keeping the kite in the air, but to get going in this kind of breeze will be super difficult.
So, quick break. We'll be back to you shortly. So there is the situation. So unfortunate. The afternoon started out so well with that strong breeze, but as we've come through every round, the breeze has been dropping away and dropping away. I mean, for Julia Damasovic to come all the way through to the repechage, through the quarters and the semis, and now into the final, she's had to find every aspect of her racing and sailing ability on different size kites to do that, Jimmy. Super impressive.
Exactly. Yeah, she's experienced it all today. Every race has been a different story for her, and really cool to see her just climb up through those rounds, and hopefully she gets the opportunity to battle it out in the final.
And Sofia Tomasoni fought all the way to the end, never gave up. It was really an error by Pichetto on the one hand, so a bad error by Pichetto to give up the lead, but somehow Tomasoni also did something better than Julia Damasovic down that final run to overtake the Polish rider and win that race. So yeah, there was some strange stuff going on there, but you got to feel for Maggie Pichetto. That was one that will haunt her for a while, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy how the lead can just be lost in a moment, especially in these conditions where you have to play it safe. You have to give yourself a bit of room for error in that ley line.
Here we see Martin Dolence with his kite being rescued by the coach. And going, as you said, for that jibe around, they knew the tack wasn't on, and they desperately tried to make the jibe work, even though they were effectively wanting to tack up wind. So prepared to sail the extra distance of a jibe and go in the wrong direction just to keep the kite in the air and the board above the water, but it just wasn't enough. And that sinking feeling, it must be horrible, Jimmy.
Exactly, yeah. But I guess when you see the other riders around you going down as well, at least you're like, okay, it's not just me. Like this is hard. Everyone's going for the jibe, but everyone's struggling. Yeah.
Now, we spoke a little bit about Cameron Maramonides and the tattoo on his collarbone. We got an interview with him earlier this week, so let's find out a little bit more about Maramonides.
Cameron Maramonides is aiming to qualify for the Olympics for Greece, and it's a pretty quick journey because only started getting serious towards the end of 2022.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your chances of getting to Paris and representing Greece?
You know, kind of fell short of the first two qualification stops, but you know, I still feel pretty confident. We got 5 more spots open in here at the Sofregatta. Yeah, so just kind of, like I said to you earlier, keep your eye on the prize it will despise. So just kind of keeping my eyes on my preparations instead of the ticket, because the ticket will come. It won't come if you're trying to grab it, you know.
Absolutely. So focus on the process, not the result.
Exactly.
Ultimately aiming for.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you just tell us quickly about your background in kiting and also in tennis, and how much the tennis helps you with your preparations in this game.
Yeah. So actually, in the kiting world of things, I was brought up in the sport, so I was raised in the sport. I was 18 months old when my dad first got me into the sport. My dad was kind of considered the Tony Hawk of the sport at the time, so I was fortunate enough to be raised into the sport and brought up around all of it. I don't even remember learning, to be honest. Yeah, then kind of we did the Youth Olympic process and all this stuff and the racing, and I kind of got a passion for racing. But also with the tennis thing, it is a very competitive, high-level sport, very physical sport, and most of all, it's a very mental sport. Like I was saying, 1 point can dictate your entire match, even if you're winning. So definitely having the tennis background can help me a little bit with my head and things at sometimes. But you know, being a professional athlete competing at the highest level is still very, very much of a mental task.
Yeah, and the intensity of tennis, that one-on-one, that must be even more intense than what you might experience in kiting. But am I wrong about that? Are they intense in different ways?
Yeah, I'd say they're intense in a little bit different ways, just because in tennis, you know, every little mistake is under a microscope because it's just you and the other person on the court, and you know, everything is kind of out there for everybody to view. Kiting is a little bit different, but I mean, one little mistake is very noticeable because it changes your your position in the fleet by quite a substantial amount. So yeah.
I've got a Youth Olympic gold medalist here, Sophia Thomas-Soni. It looks like you've got that winning feeling today, Sophia. What an amazing final run. How did you get from third into first place?
Thank you. Yeah, I just kind of like kept pushing until the end, because in my head I was like, the race is not over. Just do your best. Just like try and do as least like maneuvers and things as possible. Just try and be really clean. And then in the end, I went a little bit longer on the lay line and jibed, and that paid off. So I was quite happy with that.
So you went a little bit further than Julia Damasovic, did you? And that made it a little bit faster on the apparent win into the bottom mark?
Exactly, yeah. So I had a little bit more speed, and I could just like keep clear and just go to the next buoy.
Now, I'm happy for this Italian. I have to feel a little bit sorry for the other Italian, Maggie Pacchetto. She did the opposite of you, jibed a little bit too early, gave herself 2 more maneuvers to do, which in that softening breeze was really, really hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, she raced really well. Well, she was first the whole race. It's a bit unlucky. Like with this wind, you need to be really careful, and sometimes you misjudge the lay line, but she raced really well. I'm sure she knows it, and I'm sure she's proud of it.
How excited are you to be going through again into the next round, into the final? What an amazing moment here on home waters.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been a long time since I have been in a final, so it feels pretty good. I'm just really happy. I just hope we get the win to be able to do the final, and just like, you know, do my best there as well and see what happens.
Well, you've shown you got the form for it. Sophia, I wish you all the best in the final. See you a little bit later on the water end. Hope it goes well for you.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, quick break and back to you soon.
So, Lauriane, days like these are so hard when you've gone straight through to the final, and it's a bit of a waiting game. How are you feeling just watching each of these races go?
I was really stressful. I could see everybody like starting to swim around me, and I was like, oh, Michel, it's dropping down. And when I was looking at the last races of the guy who has been abandoned, I saw them trying to jibe at the upwind. I was like, oh my God, it must be so light. And yeah, now like I don't really know what is going to happen. Maybe we're gonna go get some offshore like this morning, or maybe the sea breeze is gonna build a little bit again. Don't really know, but yeah, it's really stressful. I would like to do my race and be done.
I can imagine, and it's so hard to work out what's going on up the course, isn't it? Every race has been different. Yeah. Are you watching each race kind of trying to form a bit of a strategy for later?
Yeah, like every time when I'm going in middle race, I'm always trying to have like my all my plan already made in my head, so I'm not like thinking too much when I'm out there, but just like, okay, now I have to be fast and go high. Then all the plan is already done. But yeah, today was really tough because we could see some port starts, some starboard start, and after like the left was playing, and after it was the right who were like was a bit more lifting, and I was like, oh my God, now the wind is like completely switching to to the right. But yeah, it's exciting. We'll see what we get later.
Exactly. Yeah, the wind is shifting. I wonder what breeze you'll get for your race.
I would love to have like a bit of offshore, 15 meters kite. Could be great.
offshore, please. 15 meters, please, for Lauriane.
Listening to me, please. No, but it was great to go out there, and like it was light. But it's always, even if we haven't raced, like it was good training to like just try to survive. So it's great. We're here for the training anyway.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Lauriane.
My pleasure, and thank you, Jimmy.
See you after a break.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
Flo Gruber, sorry that you didn't make it further in the competition. It was still a great race to watch. It looked like you undertacked the ley line, but the Wimber mark. But what was your take on the situation?
Yeah, I had a really good pace off the line, and I think I was leading, so I thought, okay, I have to make the call at one time. So I went already over my preference point I have for tacking on ley line, especially the one for light air. So I was like, okay, now it's the time. And I was pretty perfect on ley line. But then on the way on the starboard tack, I don't know, there's few jellyfishes, or maybe I just had ventilation. So I got a little bit out of full power position, like completely locked. So I had to readjust a little bit, and that cost me a few meters. And that was like the 10 meters I was missing at the end. So yeah. Maybe I should have gone 5 seconds or 2 seconds more, and it would be fine. Then something can happen. But also on the other side, the other ones can squeeze in if I go over the ley line. So yeah, in my opinion, I judged it perfect. But then yeah, with 2 small adjustments on the ley line, you're under. I could have maybe pumped around it, but then it makes the door anyway open for the others. And so I decided to make a double tack. Maybe I could get more speed around the mark, but yeah, I catched up in the end, and got closer to the other 3. But yeah, in this light air, it's hard to overtake.
Yeah, and very difficult to know which side of the course to go up. I've watched all of these races so far today, and I still wouldn't be sure. If you were going to do another race out there right now, would you be starting on port or starboard?
Really depends on the kite size, especially on the big size. It's better to start on port. You have 1 tack less, and the acceleration is way less on the big kites. With 15, I think the game is way more open. So I think when the Mistral really hits back again, it could be a really interesting evening to watch the finals, because it can be even like 15-meter kites later on.
So you're optimistic that the Mistral breeze will come back and that we'll be able to complete the rest of racing today?
Yeah, if I check the forecast, like it looked like, okay, we get a bit of a shift today during the day with the sea breeze pushing in, but in the evening it shows Mistral or offshore again, or something in between. It's a bit tricky day, but yeah, if everything works out, I think it could come back. It already is turning, and yeah, maybe we can finish it.
Okay, and you've had a good run of it lately. Silver medal in Traunsee and the freshwater of the Austrian mountains just exactly a week ago, and a different kind of challenge here. And okay, it hasn't worked out quite as well for you, but are you feeling a sense of progress at the moment with your riding?
Yeah, like before the medal race, especially with the new format, like everything can change on the last day. But my biggest goal was to perform during the week as good as possible. and I think I was completely in the mix. I was like equal points on the with Cameron on the fourth place. So for sure there was not much missing to the podium, and yeah, I was quite happy. Still some things to improve, and yeah, but I'm really keen already for next season. I think I have my points I can work on the winter, and it was already good to like transient here.
And do you want to share what some of those points are that you're going to work on, or is that kept a little bit closer to home?
Yeah, I think I kept my secrets. Yeah, just like I know what my mistakes were during the season or where I was missing something. So yeah, discussing with the coach what to work on, and trying to train hard with the training group, and yeah, come back stronger.
Now, Germany is qualified for the Olympic Games, but you have yet to find out if it's going to be you or somebody else. And it looks like it's a two-horse race between you and Yannis Maus. So am I reading it right? And what is the selection qualification process to get to the Games?
Yeah, we have 3 events next year. It's the Europeans, Worlds and Palma. And whoever is doing better in these 3 and getting better scores will make it. So it's everything on the paper. So yeah, everything is open. Yeah, like the last 2 events, I had good pace. So if I can progress like that, yeah, I'm really happy. And yeah, like let's see, we'll have a fair and good fight next year, and let's see who's doing better in the winter training.
Flo, thanks very much for chatting with us, and I'm sorry that you didn't make it further through the competition, but really well sailed this week anyway. Thanks, Flo.
Thank you.
Back to you after the break.
Are you ready to chat to your fans? So, we have seen such an extraordinary performance from you today. You've really climbed up through the different rounds. How have you enjoyed the various different conditions that Cagliari has thrown at you today?
Well, I enjoy Cagliari very much. I like this place, it's pretty cool. And today we have all of kinds of conditions. Like we started on 15s and then it dropped completely and we started racing on 21. And I have to say that even on 21 it was pretty light. So yeah, that was difficult, that was tough, and I was really excited to race in those conditions, and I'm happy how it turned out.
Nice. And how's your strategy changed from race to race as well?
I can't say that, that's a secret.
It's a secret. And what's your favourite race beam so far? The ones on the 15 metre or 21 metre?
I think my favorite one was the one that we were still racing on 15 meters with pretty close reaching curves with Sofia in the semi-final.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was such a tight battle. Well, I'll leave you to get ready for that final, and hopefully the wind throws yet another different Cagliari conditions at you as well.
All right.
We'll take it to a break.
Martin Donic, that was a super difficult start to that race just then. What was going through your mind off the start line?
Yeah, I saw that port would be better, and three of us decided to go port. And I think it was a good decision. And then the guy that was going starboard, he was doing some weird stuff, like going slow. And then I thought I could go in front of him, but then he sped up a lot. And then I went down from him, and then he even went a little bit down on me to touch my kite on purpose to protest me. And yeah, so that was really interesting. I didn't know people do some underhand stuff like that, but looks like they do it even in this events like this. So yeah, it was an interesting thing that I learned that people can do. But after that, I think I had good speed, and yeah, if we had wind, I'm confident that it would have been a good race for me.
So is this a sign that things are getting more serious as we get closer to the Olympic Games, that there is going to be that kind of really tight one-on-one competition and bringing protests and the rules of racing into play like that?
I think it's just a sign that not all people are good and want good for you in any way. So that's it, yeah.
Okay, they might argue that if it's within the rules, it's within the rules, and you play up to the edge of the rules. But you think that there was a sort of a breach of sportsmanship out there?
Yeah, I'm sure, yes.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one for us to discuss. Now, as for how that race was working out, Maxime Nochet had a slightly better start than you, but it looked like you were really getting back at Maxime.
Yeah. I think I had a really good speed, and that helped me a lot for sure.
And then we saw the jibing upwind, not tacking. Tell us the reason for that.
Yeah, I actually wanted to tack before because I saw a gust. And then after that, but Maxime wouldn't let me. And then I just saw him go for the jibe, and I went for the jibe as well. So it was actually his decision.
Okay, so even though the wind was really soft, you still would have gone for the tack rather than the jibe, would you?
Yeah, but before we entered the hole.
Right, so you felt like Maxime held both of you on a little bit too long, and if Maxime hadn't have been there, you would have tacked a little bit earlier, would you?
Yeah, for sure, and then pumped to the mark just to make it. But I think right now we're getting offshore, and usually this offshore wind, it's either gonna be strong and good or zero. So to me, it looks like we'll be racing soon.
Okay, that's good news. And knowing what you know about your other three competitors, you know a little bit more about them than you did before that race. So you've got Dennis Taradin, Cameron Maramanides and Max Nochet. Are you going to be adjusting your approach? Maybe thinking more about a starboard tack start than a port tack start, for example?
I'll think about it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to think too much about anything like this beforehand, yeah.
It's a good day to stay flexible and versatile with your thinking, because things are changing all the time, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Well, it was an interesting race while it lasted. Let's hope that we get to see that race go from start to finish next time. Martin, thanks for joining me, and all the best for the rerun of that race later on this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Back to you after the break.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
Max Mader, we've yet to see you race this afternoon, but I just bumped into your arm. It seems like you've got wet already, so you've already been out training, have you?
Yes, I have. I've been out warming up and getting a feel for the conditions, being there, yeah.
Now, the thing that I always wonder about with this format is, obviously, if you can book your spot in the final, you're always going to do that, especially because you're on match point for wearing that yellow bib. You've only got to win one race today and you've won the championship. But what you've missed out on is the experience of that race course. Is there some disadvantage to having to sit on the sidelines and actually not get the experience out there on the racetrack?
It depends on what type of person you are. For me personally, I prefer sitting back and warming up my riding speed and spectating the races as they go by. Hopefully collect just as much information as the people out racing.
Now, conditions are changing so quickly today. I wonder if there's any useful learnings that you can take from what you've seen into what you might experience later on this afternoon. Are there any general principles or general rules of thumb that you can apply to that racetrack today?
That's a great question, Andy. I think that's the question of the day. And unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that.
Even if you had the answer to that, I don't think you'd be telling me anyway. But maybe if I ask you at the end of the day, then maybe you might be more prepared to tell me what's changed. But I mean, the number of choices about which kite to use and do you start on starboard or port? I mean, you've really had to stay flexible with your thinking today, haven't you?
I think that's a good perspective to take. Yeah, you definitely have to not be rigid because you can get left behind very quickly.
So what about Julia Damasovic coming all the way through from the repechage, fighting through the quarters, the semis, and now in the finals? We in the commentary booth are very excited about this format. What do you think about it?
I think it's exhilarating to watch from any spectating point of view. And to be able to deliver consistently is a sign of a true racer, so hats off to her.
Max, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate that because everyone's got to keep their head in the game for what's coming later on this afternoon.
That's true.
You're already in the final. Let's see how it goes. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. My pleasure.
Back to you after a break. Cameron Maramanides, thanks for joining me. We saw the start of that race. You were the only starboard tack starter, the other three on port. What convinced you that going that way was the way to go?
Well, I knew that if I was on starboard, I have the priority and they have to avoid me. So I knew that if I could get out, it looked like there was a bit more wind on the left side of the course. So I just kind of got out, went for about 15 seconds, tacked over to control the fleet. I was in a really good position, and then there just wasn't much wind.
Yeah, and so unable for that race to continue. Now, just speaking to Martin Dollens, he didn't name names, but I'm thinking by process of elimination, he must have been talking about you.
Probably.
Now, he was implying that you were sort of hunting him on starboard, and that when he went to try and duck you, that you bore away, and that he's a bit mad. And so how do you respond to that? Is that what you were actually doing?
No, I wouldn't say I was hunting. I was starting on starboard. I have priority. You know, it's so light that if you do any minor adjustments to the kite, you lose a whole bunch. He tried to cross me, and then like Maxime was able to duck below me, and there was nothing there. But then he had contact with my kite on the coming on port, and I mean it comes down to the point where like the rules are the rules. And, you know, we're at that point in the sport where it's little things like this can make the small adjustments.
Okay, so did you raise your arm for a protest?
I yelled protest. I yelled protest. Didn't really lift my arm because I was so focused on not getting off foil.
I sometimes wonder about that. So the rule is that you have to raise your arm to alert the umpires that you have a protest. But I sometimes wonder you've maybe not got enough arms to manage what you're doing already. Is that a bit of a challenge?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just think, yeah, he might think I was hunting him, but in the end of the day, I was honestly trying to. I was a bit late on starboard and just kind of was pumping my way up, and held my kite in the position that it was in, and yeah, I mean, they're obligated to avoid me, and he was unable to avoid contact.
Well, I've been told in my ear that by not raising your arm, it meant that the protest would have been invalid.
Okay.
So the hail by itself, while it works in other forms of sailing, would not have been sufficient. So anyway, maybe it's fortunate from that perspective that that race didn't continue, and we've got a fresh start at it, hopefully later on this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll see. I was telling Mikhail on the boat, like, we're really struggling to even jibe and to stay on foil. They started us anyways, and now, unfortunately, quite a few of us are sitting with some pretty soaking kites. So,
so a bit of frustration there.
Yeah, for sure, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tough old game. How much does it affect the performance of the kite if you don't manage to dry it sufficiently before the next race?
So in wind like this, like super light wind, it's quite a huge disadvantage because the kite gets pretty heavy, and you know, we want our kites as light as possible and as efficient as possible, especially in the light breeze. So yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but I've been very impressed with your performance this week. As I wrote in a press release a couple of days ago, Mario Menendez takes a seat at the top table.
I saw that. And thank you. You're making me look good. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Andy.
I only say it if I think you deserve it.
I appreciate it.
So no, I mean, it looks like you're making moves. What are you going to be working on over the winter? What do you need to do to book that spot for Greece for the Olympic Games next year?
I mean, you know, there's quite a road to go. Try and secure the spot in here, but it's gonna mainly be focusing on tactics and yeah, just being able to work and to work with the best guys. I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, well, you've certainly showing the speed and yeah, interesting that you say tactics. That's obviously a big part of the game as well. Cameron, great to watch that start, even though it didn't come to anything that time. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it all works out this afternoon, and we'll see a rerun of that race, and I wish you the best in it.
Thank you, Andy.
Back to you after break.
Appreciate you.
Go again.
Okay, so Lorenzo, we're having Cagliari is throwing every possible wind direction at us today. How are you feeling? You haven't had any racing so far. You're already through to the final. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, as you said, we have tricky wind condition in the moment. We are switching from, I don't know, south to now north wind, but it should stay Mistral all the afternoon. So I think it's gonna be the normal Cagliari Mistral, as everybody knows, maybe a bit lighter. But yeah, I didn't race yet, that's true, but like I know I have the pace and everything, so I know I just have to push 2 races back to back.
Back to back. And what are you hoping for? What direction would be your favorite? Do you like the Cagliari Mistral?
Yeah, like seriously, I don't have favorite or unfavorite condition. It's like perfect for me. I just want to go in the water and ride with my friends and Max and everything else. I just want to ride, do my best, and see if I can beat Max.
Well, you've had a really good regatta so far. You've been pushing so hard. Who do you expect to kind of be joining you guys in the final, or is it quite hard to say at this point?
It's always hard to say because, you know, on one shot race, everything can happen. Jellyfish, plastic bag, and front stall in this condition especially. But we know that Maxim Nosher can be really tough on the short track and match racing. So I think Maxim is one of them. And for the other 3, I seriously have no idea. But yeah, it's gonna be tough for the final for sure. It's never gonna be easy. So yeah.
Well, it looks like the breeze is filling in now, so you might even be racing quite soon. So thank you, Lorenzo, and good luck for the afternoon.
Thank you.
We'll take it to a short break.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
We just saw Maxime Nochet do a jibe upwind on the first upwind leg of the race that was abandoned just now. Maxime, what are you doing here with the kite in the air?
Yeah, we jibe and we fall in the water. So the kite is quite dry. So now I'm prepared for the next race.
So trying to get that kite as dry as possible. What do you think about the wind? It feels like the wind is starting to fill in again.
Yeah, exactly. The wind is coming Mistral, quite strong in the air. So we're gonna wait. It's gonna build and maybe 15 or 11 meters.
Now, how difficult is it to keep a kite flying successful in the air and talk to me at the same time on this interview?
It's quite difficult, especially on that offshore wind.
I'm sorry about that. Oh no, I've jinxed you. I'm going to let you get back to your day job. I'm sorry about that. Oh, that is the commentator's curse. He's going to kill me after this. So Maxime's got to get his kite in the air. Luckily, some of the other riders are helping to keep it off the sand. So that's the situation. So we better get out of the way so that Maxime can fly that kite without us getting in the way of his line. So that is an absolute disaster created by that interview. I'm very sorry about that, Maxime. Right, he's trying to get it up in the air again. So this is the drama of kiting. It's not just beach life, you know. It's actually quite complicated sometimes. So yeah, sorry, Maxime, not great. Anyway, the good sign of that is that it means that there's a little bit of wind around, and maybe this wind swirling across the beach is the start of the Mistral, and we keep our fingers crossed that we're going to get back into racing fairly soon. Come back to you after a quick break.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
So I'm with Daniel, and you are #1 caddy. So you caddy for Max Mader and Carl Mader as well. Days like today are hectic for a caddy. Can you tell us the story so far?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky situation because the wind is up and down. So I have to peel my eyes to see the condition. If I see them on the 23 and lots of white caps, I have to prepare smaller kites for them. And if it's they're on a 15 and I see them and I see that there's no white caps, I think it's about time to change to a bigger kites. So it's just have to be observant with the condition.
Exactly, you can't really rest yourself because you have to just be watching the conditions all of the time. And it's so helpful that you're a racer yourself, so you know how it feels to be out there and you know when Max will be getting like too powered on his kite or too underpowered. So today already, I know Max is racing a little bit later, but have you been preparing kites already? Or not yet?
Yeah, I have to set up like today the wind is like either the 23 and the 15 pre-set up, make sure the bars are all in, the lines are good, in good condition. Just have to pre-set up so when I roll out the kites, the bars are all there, so there's no like mess around with the lines and bridles. So just try to like prepare the kites before the race.
Exactly, and earlier you told me your #1 top caddy tip. Can you tell everyone else what that was, or is it a secret?
It's no secret. To be a good caddy, just don't wear shoes because you're gonna run around the kites, and if you step on the bridles, you can feel it's there. But if you're wearing shoes, it's sort of like a magnet. You know, the bridles can get caught around your shoes, and you don't know, and you just kick, and you can just snap a bridle. So yeah, no shoes.
No shoes. You heard it here first. And one of the biggest questions in the caddy world is, where does the caddy role stop and the coach role start? So how far are you willing to go out into the water? If something's going wrong, are you going to be swimming right out into beyond where you can stand, or how far will you go?
Well, if the coach boat is not near on the beach here, I'll swim as far as I can. To Max or Carl or whoever that I'm helping. Yeah, so if the coach boat is not near the beach, I'll swim out, basically.
Amazing. Well, you're one of the best caddies I know, one of the kindest people as well. So those boys are lucky to have you. Thank you so much, Daniel. We'll take it to another break.
And the top probably...
Jimmy, I absolutely love being on the beach, being allowed out of our booth. There's always some drama going on. Me causing Maxime Noshek to bring his kite down while I was trying to interview him. That was my worst moment of the day. Now, you didn't hear these interviews, but I want to get your point of view. I had a quite angry Martin Dolence crossed on port. There was a touch of lines with Cameron Maramanides crossing on starboard. He was saying that Cameron was changing direction and trying to make it difficult for him, and he doesn't think this is fair in the sport. So I asked Cameron the other side of that, and he said, well, I was just approaching on starboard and Maxime got across the front of me, and Martin's lines touched my kite, and so I shouted protest. Now, maybe it's fortunate he didn't raise his arm, so it would have been an invalid protest. But is this a sign that things are getting a little bit more serious, that a touch of kites, a touch of lines is the difference?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a kind of more obvious protest where you have like a massive kite tangle, and then there's these more intricate ones where it is just a kite touch or a line touch. All of it can kind of impact your race. But I guess, as you say, the really important thing in these finals is to raise your hand really clearly. So we saw that with Dennis in the first race there. I think he made quite a good call actually, because he put his hand up almost preemptively just to kind of get that in the bag and show the umpires, you know, we could be on for a protest here, but actually all those port riders let him through on starboard. But it's tricky. You have to make your intentions clear, and yeah, at the end of the day, it's, you know, one rider's kind of opinion versus the other. So it's helpful to have the jury able to see all of this going on from the drone and from the cameras, and so they can make a really informed decision.
And that's the reason for raising the arm, isn't it? That we're actually using, is it fair to say, pioneering the use of drone umpiring here. It's impossible for ribs, boats, to follow the action around because they're traveling at 30 knots or so. You can't be charging around the racecourse as an umpire. So we do it with drones instead. Meanwhile, that is good news because the kites are going in the air as they see that the postponement flag has come down. Jimmy, I think we've got about 13 minutes until the start of the next race. So let's run back to the booth and we will pick up the commentary very soon. We're getting back into racing. See you after break.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
I'm still out of breath, Jimmy. I know athletes like you aren't. I can't believe that you actually. Oh, sorry, I've just got to turn the sound down on our. Oh no, I pressed the wrong button. Hope you can still hear me all right. Yeah, it's just that.
So we've got the riders getting ready at the moment on the beach. And yeah, we've now got a completely different wind direction. So it's offshore. The Mistral might be building. Again, it's going to be an impossible kite decision because, as we saw earlier, we've had 15-meter races. We've seen people launch their 21s, 23s, and it is one of the most strategic, tough decisions that the riders can make right now, especially after the morning that we've had. It's impossible to know what Cagliari will throw at us next.
Yeah, and there's a bit of luck in the draw now, isn't there? Do you go for the big at the risk of getting caught out by a big gust, or do you go for small and possibly sink into the water a little bit earlier than everyone else if the wind decides to disappear again? Oh, it's very tricky. There's no other none other of the Olympic sports where you can vary the size of your equipment, vary the size of your sails, or whatever it is that you have. So this is the constant conundrum for riders, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's exciting. It's a very tactical decision. It can be the be-all and end-all of a race. We know that Cameron the other day, he was enjoying, I think it was yesterday actually, he was like, yeah, we were all on the same kite size, so it was a level playing field, and it makes things a little bit more fair. But at the same time, we love a bit of kite size drama, like Yanis in the Europeans when he whipped out that 15-meter and against the others on the 11s and just absolutely killed them downwind.
That's right. And this is why the caddies like Daniel, who you were just chatting with just now, they're a critical part of performance and ultimately success on the water, even if the caddy never actually gets onto the water. So, the race is partly won by the decisions you make on the beach, isn't it?
Exactly. And yeah, like we saw there with Daniel, it's the sign of a good caddy kind of always paying attention to the changing conditions out there and trying to kind of think about what your rider will be feeling if they're overpowered and underpowered. And as a caddy, you have to call that early so that you prepare that kite so that the rider can then come in and have it all ready and waiting for them, so they don't miss a race.
And presumably they're watching live wind data on various apps or websites where they can get that information. They're using those outside sources to help them make the right decision for their rider. Is that all part of it as well?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, with Daniel, he was talking about literally just watching for those white caps and just seeing how people's kites are reacting to the weather hitting them. And of course, yeah, looking at that forecast in the morning and kind of knowing what to expect from the wind, if it's building, if it's going to drop, so you can be one step ahead of everyone else.
Okay, well, we are about 8 minutes away from the start of the next race. We'll be back to you shortly. Right, so we are going to be coming into the rerun of that race, the semi-finals, and just to remind you of what happened in that abandoned race, we had one starter on starboard. That was Greece's Karen Maramonides, and we had two others on port, and that was Max Nochet and Martin Dolence, and we had one, Dennis Taradin, who didn't even manage to cross the line.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Dennis will be happy to get a rerun of this race because he didn't make it across the start, so he'll be happy to get another shot at it. I would say Martin was looking pretty strong coming into that right-hand corner, but it's impossible to say who would have taken it. The wind dropped. They all chose to jibe to even try and make it for that next upwind beat, but sadly there wasn't enough wind and their kites went down, so we're getting a rerun.
Now, you don't know this because you didn't speak to Martin, but actually Martin said he didn't want to jibe. He actually, if he'd have been the only board out there on that side of the course and Max Nochet hadn't have been there, he would have attacked earlier, and then he would have basically made a completely different decision. I need to go to a break. I'll come back to you with the rest of this shortly.
Specially developed for Olympic kite racing sports. The VMG. Revolutionary, highly efficient, extremely fast. Velocity made good.
DR5. Built to win.
So we got 3 minutes to the start of the next race. Thanks for bearing with us. Look at how strong that breeze looks. It's a completely different picture. And just to update you from what I was saying earlier, yeah, Martin Dolence thought that he was going into an area of bad air, but where he was in relation to Max Noche, he couldn't tack when he wanted to. So when Noche jibed, he was sort of forced into the jibe as well, but he thought the whole thing was too late. So he was a little bit, he wasn't really cross with Max, but it was just, you know, he thought Max had made the wrong call to take them that far into the right hand corner, and felt there was a gust that they could have tacked for earlier that might have just about kept their boards in the air. So that's that, but it's all by the by now, because we are back in to the rerun, the start of this race. This is the semi-final in the men, and we have got 4 hot competitors with Martin Dolence, who I just mentioned, Max Noche, Dennis Taradin and Cameron Maramonides. And I would say, Jimmy, that the surprise package there is Cameron from Greece. This is a big jump up for him to be racing with these other big names, isn't it?
Absolutely, so exciting for Cameron to be racing with some of the biggest names in kitefoiling. And as you look out there, it looks like a completely different day to even just an hour ago. You can see Maximilian warming up on his 15-metre VMG there in the yellow bib. He'll be watching with a keen eye this semi-finals to kind of form and create his strategy for his finals.
So that's Max Mader wearing the yellow bib, which means he's only 1 race away from winning the championship. But if anybody else takes races in the final, then they'll keep the story going for longer. Lorenzo Boschetti is the other qualifier into the semi-finals, and the race that we're about, into the finals, and into the race that we're about to watch now, the semi-finals. 2 will break through from this 4-rider semi-final into the final, and it's a matter of finding out which one of these 4, Martin Dolence, Cameron Maramonides, Max Noche and Dennis Taradin, which of these 2 is going to make it through? 40 seconds to go.
And it looks like all 4 riders are lining up for that starboard approach to the line. So no port starters in this one. We'll see if anyone changes their mind last minute.
Now, who was it? I think it was Flo Gruber telling me that the port tack start is stronger with the bigger kites because the tack is a higher tariff maneuver, getting the big kite through the air. Sorry, just remind me, Jimmy, what size of kite do you think they're on now?
So I think they'll be on their 15 metres. It's hard to say, but if Maximilian's warming up on his 15, they'll be on the 15 metre.
Very, very tight on the line here. Well, there's so much start line they could have used, but they all decided to start off the committee boat end. So really, really tight. Now let's see who has come out of this best.
So I think that was a really good kind of last minute move from Martin Dolence there. He just powered through under the fleet and hit the line with speed. You can see him punching out there. He is to the left of the screen and to windward of Dennis Taradin. So those 2 riders going fast, and it looks like they are wanting that left-hand corner. Meanwhile, to windward of them is Cameron Maramonides and Maxime Noche.
So I think I like Cameron's spot the best. He's at the top. He's to the left-hand side of Max Noche. Would you agree with that, or who do you think's going best at the moment?
It's interesting. We'll see if these bottom 2 can create enough distance to be able to make a tack across Cameron and Maxime, but this is a shorter course, so I don't know if they'll have enough distance to be able... Oh, a crash from Dennis Taradin there.
Oh, well, he's going for the tack now. Let's see if he executes that okay. But Dennis Taradin now back in last place, and surely they're running out of ley line. They seem to have been going a long time on this tack, and surely Martin Dolence at the bottom of our screen is going to need to tack fairly soon. But no, he keeps on going. Now at last, Dolence is going into the tack, but has he left himself any ley line at all on this side of the race course? And to windward of him, just tacking, is Maxime Noche, and out on the far side, Dennis Taradin playing catch up with Cameron Maramonides ahead of him.
So Cameron just completing the tack now, just to windward of Dennis there. Will these other 2 be able to make the cross? It's looking unlikely.
So this is the young pretender, Karen Marimonides, leading in the early stages. This is an amazing performance by the Greek rider, just going past the spacer mark. And up towards the windward mark is the Greek leading the Cypriot, followed by the Frenchman and the Croatian bringing up the rear. So Cameron Marimonides having the race of his short career in kiteboarding. Only started taking it seriously just over a year ago, but the Greek is making incredible strides forwards in the race and is leading some more experienced competitors in the form of Dennis Taradin in second, just going to the jibe, and Maxime Nochet running in third. And look at the gusts on the left, Jimmy. Where do you fancy picking those gusts up?
So yeah, this is classic Cagliari with this offshore wind, these crazy gusts. You've really got to make sure that you do your manoeuvres in a good gust that can just really make the difference on that downwind and just accelerate you.
And it looks like Taradin's got a slightly lower line than Marimonides. This is Taradin starting to attack for the lead. And it looks like Taradin could be threatening for the overtake, doing 34, sometimes close to 35 knots downwind. Really, really big speeds on the 15 square meter kite.
What a battle on this downwind. As you say, Dennis has such a good kind of low mode. And all of the riders bunching together now. This is anyone's game. And
they're very thin on that ley line as well, so they're going to have to pull a real sharp 180-degree turn around this bottom mark. And this is giving the opportunity for Dolence to get back into the picture. He's in last place, but the four are very close together still.
Incredible scenes. Cameron Marimonides is still in the lead with Dennis really pushing hard to overtake the young Greek rider.
This is great sailing under pressure by Cameron Marimonides, possibly on paper the weakest of these four, but he looks so determined. He's got those inner demons that he refers to as the chimp on his shoulder, the chimp called Fred. Well, it seems like he's got Fred well tucked away in his box at the moment, because Marimonides is managing to hold his own. As I say that, do you think that Dennis Taradin is beginning to get the upper hand?
Well, we know that Dennis has an incredible speed upwind, one of the best in the world. So he's really putting pressure on Marimonides, tacking on him now, looking really strong. Meanwhile, Martin Dolence is going a little bit further out left.
Now, it didn't work for Dolence to go left on the first beat. I wonder why he decided to go furthest left on the second beat. I can't help wondering if the better attacking move when you're in last place was to tack off earlier. I feel like the Croatian has boxed himself into a corner and potentially has taken himself out of the game tactically. Maxime Nochet also with a lot to do. This looks at the moment like it's a battle between Taradin and Marimonides, and as long as you're in the top two, it doesn't really matter which way round you are. But do you think there has been a lead change?
It is hard to say. It's incredibly close between these two. It looks like Cameron's a little bit tighter on that ley line with Dennis Taradin looking strong.
So it looks like Taradin has got superior upwind speed. He's a lot more experienced. Dennis has been taking this seriously for the best part of a decade, and Marimonides has been going for little more than a year, albeit he has got kiteboarding experience in other forms of kiteboarding, but not specifically in kite foiling. But just to remind you, this is the semi-final. 2 will go through to the final and 2 will be knocked out. So as long as you're in the front 2, that's all that matters. Dennis Taradin now solidly in the lead. Marimonides being threatened by Maxime Nochet. And no, that was the finish. So we had a different race format there. So that is done and dusted. Taradin and Marimonides are through to the final. Nochet pushed so close at the end, but the Greek managed to hold on for that second of 2 spots across the line. So for both of those riders, congratulations to Dennis Taradin and to Cameron Marimonides. And just like Julia Damasovic in the women, Dennis Taradin has fought up from 9th at the start of the day, and he's gone through the repechage, through the quarterfinal, just through the semi-final, just now winning that race, and he has put himself in with a chance of coming away with a medal for sure. No, I mean, he has a 3 out of 4 chance of that. What are you seeing, Jimmy?
Well, I'm wondering if there was a protest at all in that race, Andy.
Okay, so there's a
They've both
red
gone to
flag.
the finish boat just to check that.
Okay, so there maybe there is more to be run. Okay. No, we've just had that confirmed to us. We're not aware of any protests, so we think that result will stand. So as it is, we understand that Dennis Taradin and Cameron Maramonides have booked their place in the final against Max Mader and Lorenzo Boschetti. So Jimmy, I'm loving this format more and more. It's really exciting, isn't it?
It's so cool. It's so nice to see both Julia and Dennis straight from that repechage stage into the finals, and they have put on a stint today. They've done so many races, and they'll both need to win 3 more to be able to grab that overall title. So a big day for those two.
Right, stay tuned for our next race coming up soon. A short break. Right, so we have less than 2 minutes to the start of the first race of the women's final. Now, everything so far has been one race knockout. It's different in the final. It's the first rider to get to 3 wins. Now, Lauriane Nalot, for coming through the opening series as the yellow bib wearer, as the leader, she's already been rewarded for her efforts across the week with 2 race wins. She only needs to win 1 race and she takes the gold medal here on Poeto Beach in Cagliari, Sardinia. Brianna Whitehead from Australia also straight through to the final, but wearing the blue bib. And for that, she has 1 win to her name. She needs to win 2 more races. Now, Julia Damasovic, she's already won 3 races today to get through, or certainly she's come through in the top 2. She's won 2 and she comes second in the other, I think. She need to win 3 more races. And the same for Italy's Sofia Tomasoni, who came through from 3rd on that final downwind leg, moved up into 1st, and from doing that in the semi-final has booked her place in the final. And that is a standout performance for Tomasoni, isn't it?
Absolutely. And at this point, I would usually say that these two would be nice and warmed up for this final, but it's completely different conditions to what they've raced in all day. So actually, it's a new course for them, as well as Lauriane and Brianna doing their first race of the day. And as opposed to the XS2 course that we saw earlier, we've got a reach at the finish at the shore this time. So it's 2 upwinds and only 1 downwind. So if you're strong on your upwind with your upwind skills, then this is the course for you. And that top reach is tricky in the offshore. Your kite will be a little more unstable, so it's very exciting finish. But no more of that exciting slalom that we saw earlier.
Yes, I will miss that, but it's fair enough. The wind is dramatically different in both wind strength and angle, and so we have different courses to accommodate for that. And what kite size do you think is a sensible choice for the women here?
So again, it's looking like it's the 15 square metre that they're all on, and I'm guessing they're all matched on kite size as well. So crazy to see the women racing on the same size as the men.
I was about to say, I mean, you think about the powerhouses that we've just seen, our 2 qualifiers, for example, both big guys, Cameron Maramonides and Dennis Taradin, and then you think about the size of these female riders, and it's quite different. So they're going to be a lot more powered up, these female riders, as we come in to race 1 of the final. Now, will Lauriane Nalot of France be able to see this out in 1 race? It must be going through the minds of the other 3 competitors that in these strong winds, Lauriane Nalot is possibly the fastest in the world. So it's well within Nalot's grasp to see out this final in just 1 race. So potentially her day might be done in 7 or 8 minutes of racing. That's the way it is, Jimmy. 15 seconds to go.
And again, looking like like 3 of the riders are on starboard. I think we might have one going for that port start.
It might be Julia Damasovic. Yep, so Julia looking to go in behind the other 3. Brianna Whitehead wins the pin. I think it's Lauriane Nolot, the middle in the sandwich of those 3. And then Sophia Tomasoni is most to windward, but already looking a little bit slower than the other 2. I fear that Tomasoni is struggling a little bit for pace compared with Nolot and Whitehead. Nolot looking very, very fast at the moment. And out on the far side, Julia Damasovic.
We'll see how that right-hand side works for her. But yeah, Lauriane looking really strong and incredibly speedy there in the middle of Brianna Whitehead and Sophia Tomasoni.
So a clear start. We got 4 riders still in this race. No one was disqualified for being over early. Brianna Whitehead looking low and fast for Australia in bottom left hand of screen. But Nolot looking almost as fast, but with a click of maybe 1 or 2 degrees higher, pointing towards the wind. So here's the first cross. Oh, and a crash down for Brianna Whitehead, and she gets up and running again, but small margins, Jimmy. This is a disaster for Brianna Whitehead.
Yeah, we can see it again here, just as she goes for that attack. I think she was trying to duck Lauriane there, but just crashes it. What a shame. She could very well still be in contention for the second place. Lauriane's looking speedy, but anything could happen. We've seen it in a lot of the races today, a lot of switch-ups throughout the course.
So we know that Lauriane Nolot is squarely ahead of the 2 on her side of the racecourse, but now we see the cross between Nolot and Julia Damasovic, who started on port and broke out to the right-hand side of the course. And it looks good for Julia Damasovic.
It looks incredibly good. What a good call from the young Polish rider. Coming in really strong. Let's see if she's got that ley line nailed.
Wow. So good judgment call by the Polish rider. That is quite a gap that she has on Lauriane Nolot, just tacking in second place. And already the gaps in this race are enormous. And if it was any other than Lauriane Nolot breathing down her neck, I would say this was quite a comfortable lead, Jimmy. But this is the reigning Formula Kite World champion, and she's fast in these conditions. Do you think that Julia has what it takes to keep Lauriane behind her? Look at the speed difference.
Whoa. So yeah, Julia with a bit of a tighter ley line, but absolutely fine. She's made it for the downwind, and we've seen earlier today she has incredible downwind. We'll see what Lauriane has to say to that.
Lauriane Nolot around in second, and quite a gap back to Sophia Tomasoni in third, and then back in fourth it's Australia's Brianna Whitehead, who is paying the price for that splashdown after that first tack. Damasovic doing close to 30 knots, Lauriane Nolot also doing close to 30 knots, and look at those streaky gusts coming down, and it's a matter of putting your kite in the way of the darkest patches of water, try and catch the strongest gust to carry you downwind. And Nolot actually touching just over 31 knots at times. But so far, so good for Damasovic.
Exactly, and this is the only downwind leg of the course. So after this jibe, they've only got one upwind leg and then a reach to that separates them from the finish. So incredible stuff from the Polish rider. Absolutely sending it, both of them. 33 knots,
yes.
Incredible.
Yes, amazing performance by Julia Damasovic. The gap is closing still slightly between Lauriane Nolot and Julia Damasovic, but as Jimmy just said, once they get down around the bottom of the course, there's only one upwind leg to do and then a short reach to the finish. So this is a shorter race course than we've seen earlier in the day. So there's less ground that Julia Damasovic needs to defend against the ever-closing Lauriane Nolot.
Exactly, Lauriane really closing the gap there. This is so close. Nice rounding from Julia Damasovic. We'll see what her decision is up the next beat, whether she'll go back out right. It worked for her so well on that first leg. Lauriane with a slightly better rounding there. Good pace, good angle.
And Nolo not going much faster, maybe a click faster, but she's also going a little bit higher and just a bit more speed and a bit more height towards the wind direction is working quite nicely for Nolo. But Julia Damasovic has to hope that she can get out to this port hand lay line soon enough before Nolo's superior speed can really start to do any damage.
Exactly. Lorianne's in a really good position there. She's controlling the tack now.
Oh, well, that is not good news. This is sort of back to the situation that Brianna Whitehead found herself in. And as you say, Jimmy, it looks like it's down to Nolo to decide when both of them are going to tack. And so that has... Well, it looks like the French rider has managed to turn the tables on the Polish rider. And, well, if Nolo can see out this race, then she takes the title in just one race.
Exactly, and she's really pushing Julia out to that corner on this slightly shorter course for the medal series.
And that is a hard cover that Nolo has put on Damasovic. So it's only going to get worse for the Polish rider because Nolo has got her in her bad air in the backdraft of that 15 square meter kite. So expect Nolo to stretch the gap even more on Damasovic. And unfortunately for Damasovic, the other two aren't really pulling their weight on the far side of the race course. Brianna Whitehead got some really good speed, the Australian, but still a long way to catch up, as you can see at the top of your screen for Tomasoni and Whitehead.
Incredible overtake from Lorianne. We can see her superior speed. She's got about 3 knots on Julia there. She's really pushing a bit of a lower mode. She wants this one and done. She wants that title going into that final tag.
There's no mercy, is there? I mean, she really tacked squarely on top of Julia Damasovic on the previous tack, and she didn't have to do that, but why wouldn't you do that when you have the opportunity? No need to take it to a second race if you can possibly avoid it.
So here we go into the final reach finish. Lorianne looking really good for this win.
And there goes Lorianne Nolo, adding yet another title to her amazing 2023 season. Lorianne Nolo, the French rider, becomes champion at KiteFoil World Series Italy here in Sardinia. So congratulations to Nolo and also to Julia Damasovic for coming all the way through from the repechage, through the quarterfinal, through to the semi-final and taking the silver medal here in Sardinia. An absolutely phenomenal performance by Damasovic, who was leading for much of that race but just couldn't keep the superior speed of Nolo at bay. And for Brianna Whitehead, yellow beware at the start of the week, didn't quite manage to hold on to it, but another medal for Australia, and this time it's the bronze. And unfortunately nothing for Sophia Tomasoni, who will now finish 4th in this competition. But Tomasoni came through from the quarterfinal, fought through the semi-final. And I'm sorry, it's Brianna who is the silver medalist. I should have said that because of her win that was allotted to her already for the for coming through with the blue bib at the end of opening. So just to confirm that, it's Lorianne Nolo takes the gold, Brianna Whitehead takes the silver, Julia Damasovic takes the bronze, and Sophia Tomasoni takes the, well, doesn't take anything, unfortunately, but takes home some pride for having finished 4th after a really good day on the water for the Italian. Okay, quick break and back to you soon.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
So 1 minute 40 to the start of the first race of the men's final, and we see Cameron Maramonides and Dennis Taradin joining the two opening series qualifiers. That's Italy's Lorenzo Boschetti in the blue bib and in the yellow bib. On match point, it's Max Mader of Singapore. So Max Mader will have taken heart from seeing what Lauriane Nelot managed to do and see out the women's final in just one race. That's exactly what Max Mader will be aiming to do. But Jimmy, these are all big guys, aren't they? And Max Mader, for being a big guy, I'm wondering if the other three are actually bigger and heavier than he is. And this could be a power game, as we saw with Nolo just then.
Exactly. Well, I think they all have the right to be in this final. They're all such good riders, and yeah, we'll see what Dennis can do, having come through from that repechage. What an exciting day for him. He's had a big day.
Yes, absolutely amazing. And Cameron Maramonides in his first ever final in a KiteFoil World Series, whereas Boschetti has been in plenty of these and Max Mader has been in many, many finals. So he is the one that carries so much experience into this final, even though the Singaporean is still only just turned 17 years old. 15 seconds to go, and who's on the black kite? Can you identify?
So that's Max Mader on the black kite there. All of them lining up on starboard.
And 4, 3, 2, 1 seconds to go.
So Lorenzo Boschetti from Italy going for the pin there. All of them going really fast into that start line.
And it's looking pretty good for it looks like good for the red bib on the left-hand side. Now, we thought there would be no red bib, but we think that must be, in that case,
so
Dennis Taradin.
That is Dennis Taradin. We can see Cameron Maramonides is the first attack. The other three going out to that left-hand corner like they saw Lauriane and Julia do on that second beat. Now, in this offshore gusty conditions, you need to take every gust that you can, and it's a lot lighter and flukier at the top. So we'll see. We can see Dennis Taradin going for that attack, Maximilian following, and Lorenzo Boschetti still on that starboard tack, going a little bit further than the other two.
And now Boschetti tacking top right of your screen. So the Italian into the far left-hand corner of the racecourse as they see it. It's the top right of our screen. And it's Taradin who is closest to our picture and out of picture. Well, soon, hopefully, we'll see how Cameron Maramonides' lonely journey out to the right-hand side has worked out, remembering that was the side that worked so well for Julia Damasovic in the women's race just now.
Exactly. We can see Dennis Taradin, the first attack onto that ley line there. I wonder where Cameron Maramonides, where he is. Maximilian playing it a little safer, a little more comfy ley line there. And Lorenzo Boschetti just crossing Dennis and tacking in between the two riders.
And it looks like Dennis Taradin might be on a bit of a thin ley line. It's interesting that Max Mader left it quite a bit longer before he chose his tack. And in between the two, Lorenzo Boschetti is in the sandwich. And just to the left, you can see Cameron Maramonides a long way back. So this, at the moment, looks to be a three-horse race with Max Mader just going around in the lead, closely followed by Taradin and then Boschetti. So Mader stretching a little bit lower. How is it that Mader knows when the other guys are jibing? Surely he's focusing, looking forwards, but how is it that they all know when to jibe?
I think he's always keeping an eye on the others and seeing when they're going for that jibe and trying to match them, or if he thinks to go a little bit further. But at the moment, he's speeding down on the downwind. He set himself up nice, I think, with that ley line to get ahead of these two and put himself in a nice position out in front of them. All three of them with great pace downwind. They seem pretty matched on VMG, actually.
So doing about 33 knots of speed downwind, and it's Mader bottom of screen with a marginal lead. It's Boschetti just to windward of him in the middle, and then at the top of our screen it's Dennis Taradin, and some way back out of picture is Maramonides of Greece trying to play catch up. And looks like good solid breeze coming down towards the bottom of the course. It is very gusty. Taradine going for a jibe. Boschetti going for a jibe. Maida going for a jibe. Absolutely simultaneous, in sync with each other. The back two pushing hard on Maida, trying to force some pressure onto the 17-year-old from Singapore. Round goes Max Maida, then Boschetti, then Dennis Taradine, and from Greece, Cameron Maramonides just about to go round the leeward mark now.
Lovely rounding from Max Maida. He's in a really solid position there, a little bit higher than the others, in good clear wind. The other two having to battle it out in Max's dirty air there from his kite.
So it's looking very strong for Max Maida right now. There's some waves washing in from out to sea, but they're pretty long wavelength, so not causing too much trouble. And Max Maida looks like he's got the measure of speed of the other two. Boschetti managing to live in the bad air just behind Maida, and Dennis Taradine down to leeward, closest of the three as we look at them.
All three of them pushing so hard on this final beat, the last upwind of this course.
And two of these riders that we're looking at, we'll be hoping this isn't the last upwind of the competition, because one of them, or both of them, needs to get ahead of Max Maida. Max Maida is on match point. He's on championship point, and all three have executed great tacks, but it continues to be Max Maida who is in control of the rest of the fleet.
Exactly. Great moves from Max. Very strategic. He's got them where he wants them. With Dennis Taradine a little bit in the dirty air of Max Maida. He's calling the shots. He's going fast. Dennis now going for that low, fast mode. Doing what he can on this final stretch before we get up to that all-important reach. Meanwhile, Max just pushing hard to keep that lead and extend it as much as he can.
So coming up to the final tack of this race, and time is running out for anybody to be able to take this title away from Singapore, away from Max Maida, who needs to put a few pumps in out of the tack to get fully up to speed again, but he is up to speed. Max Maida leading in towards the windward mark, closely followed by Lorenzo Boschetti from Italy, with Dennis Taradine trailing in third. Just about to go around the top mark for the final time. Max Maida within seconds of taking the title, and it is going to be Max Maida from Singapore who takes the championship here at KiteFoil World Series Italy, here in Poeto Beach. We've seen all kinds of conditions, but we see one celebrating 17-year-old from Singapore. That means a lot to him. He only needed to do one race all day long. It took him not much more than 6 minutes of racing to win this championship, but that's because he'd done the hard work earlier in the week, winning the opening series. So congratulations to him. And for Lorenzo Boschetti, he will take the silver medal, and Dennis Taradine will take the bronze. And unfortunately nothing for Cameron Maramonides, but his first time in a major finals, and a great performance for the Greek rider. So there we have it, Jimmy. We've seen Maida win plenty of these titles before, but clearly looking at that reaction, it never gets old for him, does it?
Exactly. Incredible job from the young Singaporean rider.
Okay, we are hoping to get interviews with our two winners on the beach very shortly. That's how close the beach is. Max Maida just about to come ashore, being already applauded by his caddy Daniel, and so that's how close we have been to the action all day. Dennis Taradine splashing down with the red bib. So we'll go to a quick ad, and we are going to try and catch an interview with our two winners. Back to you shortly.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.
Not. For sure not.
Max, congratulations!
Hi. Well, let me get this off.
Another World Series title. You're absolute legend. How do you feel?
Oh, great. It never gets old, does it?
Well, what was it like out there? Was it what you were expecting?
Oh, absolutely not. I think that it was some of the craziest conditions I've ever experienced in a long time because of the shifts. I mean, you saw people riding in banana curves around the course. You probably saw it on the tracker as well. Yeah. The fact that you have these wiggly lines all the way up. Yeah.
Well, it looked crazy, and you had all of the guys pushing so hard, chasing you down. It was so exciting to watch. How did it feel racing against them?
Like I had a target on my back. It was quite scary. They were all so strong and so fast, and I mean, what a race, yeah.
Exactly, and you've got your little bro VJ happy for you. Another win for Max there. Great job, great job.
Thank you.
And where's the other winner, Lauriane Nolo? You guys are used to winning together.
Well, I guess so.
Oh, great stuff, Max. Thank you so much. I'll leave you to wrap up your kite.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, where do we have Lauriane Nolo? Oh, she's disappeared. Oh, over here. Andy's very kindly wrapping her kite up with her.
I can't help you anymore, Lauriane. Congratulations, Lauriane. You saw it out in just one race. That's not the first time you've managed that, but wow, Julia Damasovic come all the way through from the repechage, through the quarters, through the semis, was leading most of that race, but in the end, you were a little bit too fast upwind. When did you start to believe that you could win that race?
I think it's when we round the mark for to start the second lap, and I saw that she rounded not really perfectly, and I tried to just be a bit windward to her so I could just block her until the end. And when I saw she wanted to tag, I was like, I'm sorry, Julia, but we're not gonna tag right now. We're gonna tag when I want to tag. And then when we tagged, she was behind, and after I knew she was in my drag, so she couldn't really do anything.
Yeah, you could have tacked a little bit later. You could have made life a little bit easier for Julia, but it was pretty clear you wanted to see that race out in one go, didn't you?
Yeah, she didn't really make my life easy. When I saw her at the first lap, I was like, wow, it's going to be tough. But yeah, no, it's great. It's really interesting because when you have to catch up, it's a really different game. So I'm really happy that the race was like that. It's a really good training for me.
So you've won 2 in a row in the last 2 weeks. Exactly a week ago, we were in Austria in the mountains, and it was a freshwater challenge. And it was Brianna Whitehead who started out the week wearing the yellow bib. She started out the week here wearing the yellow bib, but you've managed to come through on both occasions. But what about the Australian Brianna Whitehead getting the silver here as well? Great performances by her in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Brianna is really good, and she's really consistent. She's never really doing massive mistakes. When I think I always want to start the competition a little bit too full send, and so I'm making mistakes, and after I'm like, okay, Lolo, maybe calm down a little bit, and you're going to just make sure you are having the points you need. But yeah, she's really impressive, and she's improving super quickly. So attention.
So I know all your fans are watching from back home in France and various other places around the world, and I think of your chickens, Brochette and Nugget. Do you have a message for them and anyone else in the family?
But I hope they're okay. For once, my parents are here on the beach to see if they're taking a picture with Maximilian. But no, it's nice to have them here, and yeah, I hope all my family is going okay and the chickens are okay.
Well, you've had an amazing 2023 season. I know your parents and the chickens are very proud of what you've achieved. You've just gone from strength to strength, and you continue to prove what a class act you are with victory here in Cagliari. So congratulations to you, Lauriane.
Thank you very much.
Right, we are going to wrap up very quickly. Me, Andy Rice and Jimmy Craythorne, we hope you've enjoyed all the action this afternoon. Jimmy, what about those repechage heroes? I know we've got our gold medalists that we've just spoken to, but what about our repechage heroes as well? They deserve a special mention.
Oh, Andy, they are heroes indeed. They've had the biggest day of anyone, so that's Dennis Taradin and Julia Damasovic. who have done a whopping 5 races and to both claim bronze medals each. I think they've done an incredible job, well, as of all of the riders. But yeah, really cool to see this new medal series trialling format in play.
Yes, and I feel like we're closer to solving the problem of how do we reward the best riders with the medals they deserve, but keep open that final day jeopardy. It's a really difficult problem for sailing to solve, but I feel like what we're doing in the kite world is getting closer to that. So whether you're a kiter or not, I hope you're paying attention to what we're trying to achieve here, because we have seen some near misses today. Julia Damasovic in particular leading that race in the women's final, so nearly keeping the game open and coming all the way from the bottom of the order, but not quite enough to beat Lauriane Nalot. So congratulations to our winners, Max Mader from Singapore, Lauriane Nalot from France, from Jimmy Craythorne, from me, Andy Rice. Well, we are reaching the end of our live stream here in Cagliari for KiteFoil World Series Italy, but the final and concluding event is in China in, well, next month, so it's just over a month's time from now. A lot of prize money on the line, and that's where the championship will be decided for KiteFoil World Series 2023. But from us two, from the rest of our team here, from the organisers, hope you've enjoyed the show. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you in China.
This is tight racing at very high speeds, and it's very, very exciting.